Hey, it's your girl, your favorite paralegal, aka Cassandra Lynn, and welcome to Legal Doc Talk 24/7. I hope you guys are having an awesome day. This is another edition to the True Crime Edition, aka podcast. So this is going to be the January 7th. What is that? Yeah, January 7th preliminary hearing. This particular one is going to be very interesting because you have a lot of detectives and the sergeant and the school safety personnel that are actually testifying. So we are going to see a lot more. Documentation as well as the interview between the detectives and Jarvis Butts. So this one is going to be interesting. Um, I don't know if y'all, well, no, y'all can't see it, but when I switch screens, it does show that it's 5 hours and 53 minutes long, but there is a very long break in it. So I am going to fast forward through some of it, so it won't be long. But once again, chime in, leave your comments. I am working in the background, but at the same time listening. But I am watching out for the chat to, kind of see if y'all have any questions or, just kind of engage with you guys. But without further ado, let's hop on into it. Again, this is going to be the January 7th preliminary hearing for Jarvis, but let's get into it. And this is from the courtroom Zoom. So there's captions on there, so you guys should be able to make out exactly what's being said. Watch yourself. Once you situated, you can hold that whole microphone with the little white cap on it in your lap, or just lay into it. Just tell you off. Yes.
Thank you. Could you state your name for the record, ma'am?
Tashiana Davis.
And Ms. Davis, I want to ask you about someone by the name of Jarvis Butts. Do you know that person?
Yes.
And how do you know Mr. Butts?
He was my fiance.
And do you see Mr. Butts in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Could you point to him and identify a piece of clothing that he's wearing?
He's right there with a green cotton.
For the record, the witness has identified the defendant, Jarvis Butts, in this matter.
So reflect.
Thank you. And how long, you said he was your fiance.
Yes.
How long in total have you known Mr. Butts?
4 years.
And
2019.
2019?
Mhm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And when did you become engaged?
2023.
And can you tell us a little bit about the nature of that relationship? Do you have any children with him? Things like that.
No children.
And would Mr. Butts sometimes stay over at your house?
Yes.
How often would that happen?
Pretty often, but we didn't live together.
Okay. I want to take your attention back to January of 2024 and February of 2024. Did there come a time when Jarvis Butts asked you to drive him to court?
Yes.
And when was that?
February 7th.
Of 24?
Yes.
And was there a time before that that you had to drive him?
Yes.
And when was that?
January, I think it was the 9th.
Okay.
It was in January.
So you've at least driven him to court twice?
Yes.
And let's talk about the January 9th date that you drove him. What was the reason he wasn't driving himself? Why were you driving?
Because he thought he was gonna have to turn himself in then for another case, and then they rescheduled it.
Okay, so on the 9th, he was supposed to turn himself in, but didn't actually end up doing it.
Correct.
Okay. And then on the 7th, did he ask you to drive him to court again?
Yes.
And what was the reason that you drove him to court on the 7th?
Because he was supposed to turn himself in.
And did he end up turning himself in on the 7th?
Yes.
Okay. When you were driving him on the 7th of February 2024, first, what kind of car do you drive?
2005 Suburban.
And what color is it?
Tan.
And when you were driving him to court, who else was with you, if anyone?
Nobody.
Just you and Mr. Butts?
Yes.
And when you were driving to court, did you ask him about his cell phone?
Yes.
What did you ask him?
I said, "Where's your phone?"
And what was his response when you asked him that question?
He left it at home.
And did you have any other conversation regarding his phone on the 7th when you were driving him to court?
No.
And what did, you said he did turn himself in?
Yes.
And so you drove back home, correct?
Yes.
Did you eventually have some contact with the police department?
Yes.
And where were you when you had that contact?
In the hospital.
And what did they ask you about generally?
Did I know anything about a missing child?
And do you know anything about the missing child?
No.
Did they ask you about his cell phone?
Yeah, I believe so.
And did you know or have any reason to believe, other than what Jarvis told you, that his phone was someplace else?
No.
And did you know that his phone was in your car?
No.
Did you give permission to the police to search your car?
No, they just came and took it.
They had a search warrant?
Yeah.
Oh, and were you present at your house when they came and took your car?
No.
And did you observe them search through your car and pull anything out?
No.
Oh. May I have one moment, Judge?
Yes.
And you said you knew Jarvis Butts for 4 years?
Yes.
And would you communicate with him via cell phone?
Yes.
And do you know the last 4 digits of his phone number, if you remember?
9.
If you don't
I
remember,
don't remember.
okay. With looking at text messages, refresh your memory?
Yes.
May I approach, Judge? You just looked at the phone numbers on,
The first one.
and does that refresh your memory?
Yes.
And what were the last 4 digits of Jarvis Butts' phone number?
8719.
At some point after you dropped Jarvis Butts off at the courthouse and he turned himself in, did you go to his place of employment on at 9,000 Connors?
No.
Okay, did you ever talk to his business partner, Cordell Ray?
No.
Oh. I've got it.
Thank you. Morning, Ms. Davis. You met Mr. Butts at Frank's Garage, is that right?
Yes.
And that's where Mr. Butts was working about 4 years ago.
Yes.
You taking your car there?
Yes.
And I think in your words, you said you kind of never left after you met him. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
You guys got along really well,
Yes.
and you just kind of started a relationship from there.
Yes.
Would you go up to the garage after that relationship started,
Yes.
kind of just to drop in?
Yes.
At any point in time while you were at Frank's Garage, did you ever see any children there?
No.
Is it fair to say that Mr. Butts was very protective of his phone around you?
Yes.
He would never let you see his phone screen?
No.
Wouldn't give you access?
No.
Certainly didn't give you his passcode or anything? In fact, you've actually actively tried to get into his phone, right?
Yes.
I think you had mentioned that when he was sleeping, you tried to kind of wave it in front of him.
Yes.
That would unlock it.
Mhm.
You took a picture of his face once and tried to
Yes.
put the screens together. So you wanted to know what was in his phone.
Yes.
And he did not want you to know what was in his phone?
No.
As far as you know?
Mhm.
Is that yes?
Yes.
Did you ever talk to him about why he was so secretive with his phone?
Yes.
And does it have something to do with the fact that he's seeing other ladies?
Yes.
And you suspected that at the time,
Yes.
and so that's why you were looking for proof?
Correct.
Okay. Even though you suspected that Mr. Butts was unfaithful to you, you still stayed with him.
Yes.
One reason for that is because he was good with the kids.
Yes.
He cared for your kids.
Yes.
He took them places.
Yes.
He took your son up to the shop.
Yes.
He showed him how to change the oil in the car.
Correct.
And you viewed him as a good father figure.
Yes.
Did you ever see anything inappropriate or that would cause you to see a red flag with regard to him and your children?
No,
Did you ever see him acting inappropriately with any other children?
no,
Certainly, if you had, you would not have allowed him in your house.
oh, absolutely not.
You knew that Mr. Butts had other children, right?
Yes,
With a woman named Angel
yes,
and a woman named Shannon.
yes,
He talked about his children with you.
yes,
Did he ever talk to you about his niece?
no,
About how often would Mr. Butts stay with you on any given week?
maybe like twice,
Were they like the same days or was it random?
random.
About what time would he come over?
After his work hours, after like 6 o'clock.
Okay, so you think he would come kind of straight from work?
No, he would probably do something else and then be there later on in the night.
Okay, so closer to like 9, 10?
Yes,
Okay. Would he stay the night with you?
to about 2 o'clock in the morning, 3, then he would leave.
Okay. Do you know how he would get to your home?
A couple of times he was in a white truck, a white Cadillac truck. Sometime I think he would walk. If he was coming straight from the shop, he would walk. Or if he had my truck, that's how we get back and forth.
And that's the Suburban.
Yes,
Did you know Mr. Butts to ever have his own vehicle?
yes, he had a white, Chrysler truck, van,
Okay. And when did you know him to drive that?
like maybe the first 2 years we were together.
Okay. Now, when Mr. Butts would come visit you, would he park in your driveway?
Yes,
Would he spend weekends with you also?
yes,
What's it? Yes, thank you.
Ms. Davis, I have a couple more questions for you. Ms. Quick asked you about Mr. Butts being secretive with his phone. Can you tell me about a time that you had a conversation with him about him being secretive or something like that?
he would never really say anything. He talked in circles. So if you try to ask a question, it's just always,
But fair enough, you had multiple conversations about his phone and your access to it, I guess, or,
yes,
or lack thereof.
yes,
And Ms. Quick also asked you about Mr. Butts staying over the night, or staying the night at your house. You said that he would leave around 2 a.m.
mhm,
Is that a yes?
yes,
Do you know where he would go when he would leave?
no,
Did he ever tell you where he was going?
home,
Did you know where he himself called home?
yes,
Where was that at?
Wilshire,
And you said he would walk from his place of employment if he was coming straight from there, right?
yes.
How far from that
Um,
on Connors, the auto shop on Connors, do you live? How far of a walk?
No, that was when he was on Warren,
Warren and Neff?
yes,
How far of a walk from that location?
like 4 blocks,
And did you ever see him drive but not park in your driveway or in front of
Yes.
your house? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
he parked around the corner and he would walk to my house.
And do you
When he
know,
was in the white Cadillac truck,
you said Cadillac?
yes.
Was that an Escalade? If you know.
I don't know,
And do you know the reason why he would park around the corner?
I don't know, I asked and he was just like, I didn't drive,
But then would you see his truck?
I was in the truck.
Maybe one more truck?
Yes.
One last question. You said he lived or called home in Wilshire.
Yes,
Have you ever been to that house?
Yes.
Have you ever been inside that house?
No.
No, you've never been.
Well, it's just that another response.
Give me one more.
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, people would call Border Patrol Agent Wyatt Barnes. I'm under a permission to share my screen. Yeah.
Okay. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. As much as pull that whole off the way, once you sit down, it gets easier.
Okay, thank you.
Are you ready? Oh. Good morning, could you please state your name for the record?
Name's Wyatt Barnes.
And how are you employed?
I work for the United States Border Patrol.
And how long have you been employed by the U.S. Border Patrol?
14 years and change.
And were you working back on March 12th, 2024?
Yes.
And in what capacity were you working?
I was working in a search and rescue capacity. That's the primary job, my primary job.
Okay. And were you working alone or with a partner or a group of people?
With the team. There was a sizable team that day.
And what is it that you guys were doing?
We were responding to a missing person
Okay.
in that area.
And which area are we talking about? Where were you at?
7 Mile and Bird.
And what was your role in searching the 7 Mile and Berg area?
I was searching the riverbank of the River Rouge. We were searching south along the bank. I was on the east side of the bank in the 7 Mile Bird area.
And when you were searching this area, was there anything in particular that you were told to look for?
Just nothing solid, but there were just some child-sized clothing things, just anything that could have been washed up on the riverbank. There was a storm recently, so we were in the water and on the riverbanks.
Okay, so you're kind of looking for maybe some child-sized clothing.
Yes,
Okay, and did you come across any clothing that you thought maybe would fit the description?
yes.
Okay, where was that at?
That was south of 7 Mile and Bird, near a abandoned structure next to a dirt parking lot. About, I can't get the exact distance, maybe 15 feet up.
And when you find articles of clothing, what is it that you do here?
So there's a lot of stuff that might be washed up. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna age it and make sure that it is something that could possibly be related. And then I'm gonna just immediately report a picture to the incident command so that they can send people to Department of Inspection.
Okay, and when you say age, what do you mean by aging?
Just to make sure that it hasn't obviously been in the brush for years, or it's not some garbage that washed up. So
And in this search in particular, what was kind of the time frame that you were supposed to be like using to age?
recent, not like within a month or two.
Okay.
So it would still look.
And so when you find items, you said that you age them and then you kind of report them to incident command.
Yes,
Okay, and how is it that you report them? Do you go like a walkie-talkie? Do you call them on the phone?
via radio.
Okay.
Yeah, via radio, and then there's usually some type of a chat that I wasn't communicating directly on the chat. I just kind of forwarded the photos to a supervisor who then gave the photos to the incident command. And they would divvy those out to the detectives.
And what is it that you found in this case?
I found I don't know if this is the right term for it, but like a onesie. It was mostly balled up in the brush with the shoe inside of it. And so I pulled I didn't know it was clothing at the time, but I pulled it out of the brush, just to kind of open it up and see what it was. And then once I saw that it was clothing with the shoe inside, I just reported it to this.
Okay, and when you're touching these items, are you wearing gloves?
Yes.
Do you recall, describe the onesie, color, size, anything like that?
Pink. Honestly, the size, I don't, small.
And what about the shoes? Or
Shoe,
shoes? Shoe that you
it was a
found.
small Nike shoe.
Okay.
And it
Sorry.
was inside the onesie, which was inside out.
And were you instructed to recover those at the time?
Like bag them and bring them somewhere?
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
no, that wasn't.
Were you? How do you, I guess, convey to someone where at these items are?
GPS coordinates.
Okay, and did you author like a paragraph report in this case?
Yes,
And did you include coordinates in that report?
yes, and they were incorrect in my report. I just went over it yesterday. I do have the correct coordinates if you guys want those.
Okay, yes, could you please provide us with the correct coordinates? And is there something that you're going to use to refresh your memory?
I have a piece of paper here. So the coordinates that were provided in the paper were from the incident command. These coordinates are very close to where that piece of equipment was found. They're decimal degrees, 42.426693, negative 83.268497.
So the coordinates that are in your report are where instant command was kind of set up.
That's the incident command, yes.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's already admitted as People's Exhibit 14. I'm going to show just some specific pictures from that. Looking at picture 63 here. Tell me, do you recognize anything in this photo?
Yes,
What is it that you recognize?
the pink article of clothing and shoe.
Okay, and when you initially saw these items, is that how you saw them?
No, they were just balled up in the brush, just kind of stuffed in there.
Okay, and,
So
sorry, continue.
I pulled them out and set them that way so the detectives would see.
Okay, so photo 69. Is this the shoe that you had found that was inside the leg of the pink jumpsuit? Or
Yes.
onesie? 67. Is this
Yep.
a photo of them just from the behind?
Yes,
Okay, and you were the one who kind of took them apart and placed them separately like that?
I did,
Okay.
yes.
And did you do anything else as it relates to this case?
No.
Nothing further. Sorry, 1 minute. The coordinates that you gave, were those latitude, longitude?
Yes, yeah.
Nothing further.
Okay.
Well, decimal degrees, so.
Thank you.
Agent Barnes, you said that you were taking part in a search of the area of 7 Mile Bird. Was that, how large of an area was it?
I probably searched at that point, not quite half a mile. So not a
And
huge area,
you said you were part of a team,
yes.
but how many people were out there?
There was multiple counties out there assisting in search. I would say I could give you the exact number, probably 7 dozen.
7 dozen?
Several.
Several.
There was different teams assigned to different parts of the river.
So different people were assigned to, or different teams were assigned to one like half-mile location, another half-mile location, or coordinates, I guess?
Yes, even smaller than that, smaller section, yeah, just to keep that fresh.
And was it like a coordinated effort then to kind of sweep this area?
Yes,
So you're just walking like in a straight line, or
for the most part.
can you describe kind of how that looks?
Yeah, so in the river, I'll go from the river to the banks. So in the river, you have different teams wearing dry suits, using technology, looking for anything that resembles a body, and then sticks to kind of push stuff loose, search the log jams. Then you have guys on the edge of the river, because the water level was high, so the one from the river banks as well, which the water level was high and had become lower. Then you have teams on the banks and then teams kind of doing an S pattern along the river edge to make sure they cover as much ground as possible.
Thank you. And so you said that on this particular day, the water level was high.
No, the water level was high the week prior or so, so we wanted to make sure that we covered the river banks where the water was. The water was stacked to its normal level.
Was there a way to tell where the water level had been previously? Is there a way to mark that?
Sometimes it's just where debris gets caught up.
Okay.
It was maybe a little higher.
And it was you personally that saw the pink onesie, or the pink thing that you initially saw?
Yes,
Did you take pictures of it, how it looked when you initially found it?
I didn't, no.
Would you normally do something like that?
There's just so much stuff. I wasn't taking, it would take me all day if I take a picture of everything I found. So
You stopped and kind of moved it, manipulated it.
yes, I pulled it up to inspect it, noted that it was worthy of reporting, set it back down. Ready to go.
Okay, and how far did you set it down from the location where you initially located
Same
it?
spot,
Exact same spot?
same brush.
And you said that part of what you do is kind of to note approximately how long it looks like it's been out there.
Yeah.
And in this particular case, what was it that you kind of found or thought when you noticed it?
There was no discoloration from the sun. You know, typically if something sits outside for a while, the sun's going to change the color that it sees, and then underneath it's going to be a different color. There was no discoloration in the article of looking. So, and that can happen in weeks. It's pretty quick. Depending on how much sun. There was no evidence of animals getting in it. There was no significant dirt. It looked very fresh.
Did you find or see any other clothing other than the shoe in that area?
Very old clothing, years old.
Like what, for example?
Maybe just codes, but it was nothing pertinent. Things that were
Many
under
phone
layers of
calls
lots, yeah, I mean, it was very much debris,
in that
under-
general area, in that half mile area that you were scanning?
yes.
Nice. No, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Given, that you photographed these and alerted these, did these, the pink onesie and the shoe, those match your aging description that you were following?
There was no age necessarily, that's what you mean, like, they hadn't been out there for a long period of time. Thank you.
At this time, Judge, people call Sergeant Melanie or Ward.
I'll do the next one.
Yes.
Please make sure you watch your step. And also, you can pull that microphone off the ledge if it's easier for you, or just bring it to me.
May I proceed, Judge?
Yes.
Did you say your name for the record?
Sergeant Melanie O'Rourke,
What do you do for a living, Sergeant?
Sergeant with the police department,
Which police department?
Detroit Police Department,
How long have you been with the Detroit Police Department?
approximately 11 years.
And are you currently assigned to a specific precinct or unit within the Detroit Police Department?
Yes, I work at major crimes,
Okay, and what sort of crimes do you investigate at major crimes?
generally homicides.
And how long have you had that role, or have you been in major crimes?
I believe since 2016.
And do you do any specific role within major crimes that requires a little bit of training and education?
Yes,
And what is that?
I do forensic analysis of cellular call detail records and tower mapping.
Okay. And what sort of training, very generally right now, what is that?
What types of training?
No, sorry, new question. Generally, what is called forensic analysis of CDR and tower mapping?
I don't understand.
Okay. Have you had any training to do that?
Yes,
Tell us about that.
I've had T-Mobile training. T-Mobile is the prevalent company here in the Metro Detroit area. I've had Excel training. Excel is the format that most of our call detail records come back to us in. I've had cell phone use and drug trafficking trainings, Penlink training. Penlink is the program that the Detroit Police Department utilizes. It basically puts the records in a readable format. I've had CATS training, which is an acronym for Call Analysis Training School. I've had Penlink training, PLX training, which is an upgraded form of Penlink. Approximately around 450 hours of specialized training in cellular analysis.
Okay, and that 450 hours in that training, does that allow you to utilize that to generate what you said earlier, tower maps based on your analysis of call detail records?
Yes,
Okay, and what are call detail records?
historical records.
And does that allow you to place certain things based on cell towers on maps to give an approximate location of a particular phone number that's associated with the phone?
Yes,
And have you testified as an expert before in this field?
yes,
And how many times have you done it?
over 35 times.
And has that been in Wayne County?
Yes,
And have you testified in 36 districts?
36 in Jarvis, yes.
Judge, at this time, I would move to qualify your work as an expert in the forensic analysis of call detail records and tower mapping. No objection. Now, can you describe for the record, when you get call detail records, the process that you would go through to generate maps?
Yes, the OIC or the officer in charge would supply a search warrant for a particular target number. We would submit that to the respective cellular company, whether it's T-Mobile, AT&T, or Verizon. They will submit back to us in the form of raw records, usually in Excel format, the call detail records, and other various forms, subscribers, things like that.
And in terms of the call detail records, what is contained in that spreadsheet? What sort of information is contained within that spreadsheet?
It'll be dates, times, locations, the target number in question, any contact ID, who they're, having any type of activity with, whether it's a text message, a voice call, the duration. There's multiple things associated.
And you talked about location. How are those locations generated and inputted into that spreadsheet?
So these records will supply an actual either latitude, longitude, or a location area code or other location information for the cell tower that the, we're just gonna say cell phone in this case, cell phone interacts with.
Okay. And can you describe well, first, silly question, I know, but what is a cell tower? What do you mean by that?
It's the cell towers that you see all over the place. They can be, one of those huge mammoth things that you see. They've got a bunch of cells on there and antennas that you see, or it could be, really small and, but they're all over the place.
Okay. And the records provide a indication of which tower it was, that phone number was interacting with at a specific time?
Yes,
And does that allow you to take that information and put it into a map or go through a process to generate that location on a map?
yes, we actually use a system called Penlink, and that information will, like I said before, will basically put it in a readable format. So the information that you receive today, that's what you're looking at.
Now, let's talk about this case. Did you do that, follow your process based on your training for a target number of 313-585-8719?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, and that was a T-Mobile record, correct?
It was.
Okay. And did you generate maps based on your training and experience using Penlink to map that phone number and that phone at specific times related to this case?
We did.
May I approach, Judge?
Yes.
I'm approaching the People's Proposed Exhibits 33 through 39. If you could take a look at those, Sergeant, and you recognize what I just handed you. And are those maps that you generated for that target number ending in 8719?
Yes,
At this time, I would move to admit People's Proposed 33 through 39.
Any objection? No.
No objection.
Okay, maybe people's exhibits 33 to 39.
Thank you, Judge, and permission to publish.
Yes.
And on the screen and in your hand is Exhibit 33. First, I want to talk about what's at the top, very top of this, and what information goes there.
The first row is going to have what's going to be on our calls report, a condensed version. There's going to be a lot more in the actual calls report, but this is the information that exhibits what's in the map down below. So for row 1, which we only have 1 row in this instance, we're going to have the target device, which is the phone number, and the date, time that was requested. So in this case, it's going to be January 9th of 2024, and the time, which is in UTC time or military time, it's going to be 16:09 or 4:09 p.m. And then the duration, how long the activity lasted. You have a start, like I said, that's actually your location information. And then the call type, in this case, it was a voice call. Call status, whether it was completed or not completed. The direction, incoming or outgoing. Did he make the phone call or did somebody call him? And then you have the contact ID, which is who the device was contacting or interacting with.
Okay, and that would have been the phone number that it was, that in this case, that an outgoing call was placed to.
Yes,
So let's back up to the date, January 9th, 2024 that's what it says on exhibit 33, correct?
yes.
Okay. How do you know to do that date in particular for this case?
So for all of these maps, this was requested by the officer in charge.
That information is supplied to you?
Yes.
Okay, do you know the details of other parts of this investigation, or are you just taking the information the OIC gives you?
I know the general information, but this is, they asked for a specific date and time, and this is what we based on.
Okay, and then moving over to the next row for time, it says 16:09 and 24 seconds, correct?
That's, yes.
So that's my next question. You said that that's in UTC time. Can you describe or tell us what UTC time is?
No, this time that you have here is in our time, Eastern Standard Time. UTC time is Universal Time Coordinated, and that's gonna have, that's like on the world clock. So you're gonna have a -4 or a -5. The raw records come back to us in Universal Time Coordinated, and then we turn around and put it in our time so that you can read it and know that what time it happened here.
And so just to be clear, the 16:09 or 4:09 PM is what time it was in Detroit, where this phone was at 4:09 on January 9th.
Yes.
And that's a conversion that you have to do based on whether it's -4 or -5.
Yes,
What does that depend on, -4 or -5?
it's the UTC time, Universal Time Coordinated. So it's on the world clock. So our Eastern Standard Time will change, fall back or spring forward based on the summer and the winter. And so during the summertime, it's going to be -4 from UTC time. And then during the winter time, it's going to be -5. So we just put it in so that the time that you have here is Eastern Standard Time.
Okay. And then the 2 rows over, one next to duration, start, lac/CID. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that information means and why it's important?
So that's going to be your location information. Your LAC is location area code, and then the SID or CID is your cell ID.
Okay. And that is what allows you to generate, or part of what allows you to generate the map that we see below?
Yes.
So let's talk about the map that we see below. First, you have those 2 lines going down in almost a incomplete triangle. Can you tell us what we're looking at there and what's in the middle?
Yes. So the middle part, you're actually looking at a V, and it's going to be about 1 mile long here in the Metro Detroit area. The cell coverage that you're looking at for any particular tower is usually about 1 mile. So that V is a representation of the intended area coverage of the cell phone.
Okay. And then there's a little pie chart in the middle in a little shade. Can you tell us what that is?
Yes, that is the intended area.
Okay, so that's the mile that you were talking about.
Yes.
And then you have a blue dot located to just above the top line there. Can you tell us what that is indicating?
That blue dot indicates 9,000 Connor, and that was requested to be placed on the map at this particular date and time.
And so what essentially is your conclusion about this map that we're looking at here? What does all of this mean?
In this particular date and time, so January 9th at around 4:09 p.m., the target device that we're looking at ending in 8719 is consistent with being in the area of the 9,000 corner.
And how precise is this location? I mean, you say in the area, there's no specific spot that you can say this was at this address. How precise can you get with this?
So we can only tell you what the address and location of the cell tower and their intended coverage. They actually give you that. So you're working with radio frequency. So it's not going to be an exact V that you see here. You're going to be working with radio waves. So it can be a little bit outside of the V or a little bit inside of the V, but basically this is just to demonstrate, you know, the intended area coverage of the cell phone company.
Oh. Going now to exhibit 34, which is on the screen. First, is this the same information that we saw in exhibit 33 across the top of the map in exhibit 34?
Yes.
Okay. And you have 4 rows here instead of 1. Why do you have 4 rows instead of 1 in this map?
In this instance, the officer in charge requested to see a travel duration. So during the time between, I have 1838 and 1922, there are actually others in between, which you can actually see in the raw records. But to put that many records that happened in between is a lot. So basically, we are showing the travel from the blue dot indicates 9,000 corner, and then the black dot indicates Ypsilanti. And they wanted to depict the travel from 9,000 corner down to Ypsilanti during this time period.
And the first time period that you have for row number 1 is 1838 and 16 seconds.
Yes,
So that would be 6:38 p.m.
yes.
And is there a corresponding number on the map that relates to each row?
Yes, and row, you can actually see the row column. So number 1 is going to coincide with number 1, which is just leaving the 9,000 corner area. And then you see on row number 2, it's depicted on the map as number 2. And it's traveling down 94 west. And then number 3 coincides with line number 3, and then 4 and so on.
Okay. And so your conclusion, correct me if I'm wrong, would be that for number 4, at around 19:22 and 33 seconds, that phone was in the area of Ypsilanti.
Just west of it.
Just west of it.
I believe there's a little town there, but yes.
And 1923, that would be 7:22 p.m. Correct. Going to exhibit 35. And on exhibit 35, which is on the screen now, you have, again, 4 rows with the coloring for that information. Describe what we're looking at and what the coloring is.
Yes, so the blue dot indicates 9,000 corner, again, and the purple dot indicates 13362 Wilshire. And those are the 2 locations that the officer in charge requested to be placed on the map. And they wanted to show that this device was in the area of either of these locations and at what time.
Okay, and so can you tell us about the lines closer to the 9,000 Connor location and what ones those correspond to in your records up top there?
So this is an RTT report or a time in advance report. And the row number 1 and 2, which one is the dark blue line, and the other is the light blue line, all indicates approximately around the area of 9,000 Connor during the time of 2028 and 2042, which is 8:28 p.m. and 8:42 p.m.
And so is it fair to say that this phone was in the area of 9,000 Connor at those times on January 9th?
It's consistent with being around the area.
And then the other 2, the purple and pink lines, can you tell us about those?
So there's a dark purple and light purple, and that's around the area of 13362 Wilshire, and those are times of 2048 or 8:48 p.m. and then 2059 or 8:59 p.m. So the RTT information has moved from around 9,000 Connor to 13362 Wilshire during that period of time.
And so does that indicate that the phone was traveling towards the direction of the your address?
I
And you said RTT. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that means?
RTT is a real-time tool or time demand. Basically, it's a report that T-Mobile will send out, and it's historical location information. It's not necessarily based off of any type of activity. So you're not going to have phone calls during this time. It's not going to be text messages, or as long as the phone is on and the cell tower basically, or the base is able to get in contact with the device and back. So basically, it's the time that it takes for a base station to send out a signal and then have it received back from the device.
Is it fair to say that that's more of a passive interaction between the phone? There's no input on the phone that's required for this?
There's no input required at all. There's not any cellular activity at that time. It's basically for additional performance by now.
Going to exhibit 36 now, which is on the screen. On that first page, you have 8 lines. Can you tell us the reason you have 8 lines and what they're indicating?
Number 36 is a color tele map of the date and time of January 9th from 22:53 or 10:53 p.m. to January 10th of 2024 at 1:11 a.m.
Okay. So that's the time you're analyzing here is from closer to midnight on the 9th going into the next morning, early morning on the 10th, correct?
Yes.
Right. And going to the second page of this exhibit. Can you tell us what we're looking at in this map on the second page of exhibit 36?
In this map, we're looking at rows 1, 2, and 3. So this, the red dot that you have right there, smack dab in the middle, indicates 2000 Harper, which is Harper Crest Motel. And then the next slide has a different address associated with it. But what we're looking at right here is the 2000 Harper Crest Motel.
And is that in Harper Woods? No. That highway that is just off of, that's 94 highway, correct?
Yes.
Oh. And the 2 towers or the 2 lines that you have here, does that indicate the phone's interacting with those towers at the times in rows 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah, you see the dark blue tower on the south side facing north. That's the area code. And then you have the light towers up the light tower up top, the light blue, which is number 3, and that's facing downward, and they encompass the area. They overlap the area.
Okay. And the phone was interacting with both those towers at 12:37 in the morning on the 10th.
Between 10:53 and 12:37 a.m.
And then going to the third page of this map, what are we looking at here on the third page, and what rows do they correspond to?
This third page is going to have a purple dot that indicates 4 East Alexandrian, and that is another location that was significant for the officer in charge to place on the map.
And sorry, maybe I missed you saying this, what rows does it correspond to on this map?
And that corresponds with the purple row. So each color represents the call detail records, the color on the call detail records report. So that's going to be room 8 at 1:11 a.m. on the 10th of January.
And this is all for that target number ending in 8917, correct?
871.
871, sorry, thanks. All for the same number.
Yeah, all of these reports.
Okay. And does that indicate to you that the phone moved from that Park Crest location down to where this is on Alexandria?
Yes.
Okay. And then the last page of this exhibit Is this just an overview of both of those maps that we just looked at?
Yes, it is. So you'll see in the beginning, or I'm sorry, at the end of the night, at around 10:53, so at the Park Crest Motel up there on the northeast side, and then it travels down at around 1:11 in the morning on the 10th, down to the purple area.
And that's the Alexandra.
It is.
Going now to exhibit 37, which is on the screen. You have that there?
I do.
Okay. First, can you tell us again what we're looking at in the 3 rows on the first page of this exhibit?
So this is the time in advance report. You've got the row, the target, the day, and these are going to be, these are all in the color black and on the map for the second page. And basically it's showing on January 10th, 2024 from 22:51, which is 10:51 p.m. to 22:53 or 10:53 p.m.
So
on the
later,
10th,
later in the day on the 10th.
on the second day. Yes.
Okay, and so we moved almost 24 hours, or 20 hours up from the last one, correct?
Yes.
And if we could go to the second page. And where is this phone interacting with on, at the times that you just said, later in the day on the 10th?
The information received from the cell phone company is right around Greenfield and Sutton.
And is that in the city of Detroit, Wayne County? Sorry.
Yes.
Oh. And going now to exhibit 38. We're looking at a lot more rows on exhibit 38. Can you tell us what we're looking at here?
Yes, this is the time period right after we were looking at 7 Mile and Greenfield. That time was all the way up until 22:53. So here we have from 23:40, which is 11:40 p.m. to 23:59, 11:59 p.m. And this is all on the same night of the 10th.
Okay. And this is so just about 40 minutes after the previous map, correct?
Approximately.
Okay. And was there any information in the records, if you know, between those 2 times, that 40-minute gap there?
They gave us a time in advance records.
Oh. And going to the second page of this, on the map here first, can you tell us what that red dot indicates on this map?
So that red dot indicates 7 Mile and Berg.
And in terms of the circles around that, what do those represent?
The time in advance distance from the cell tower. So that's all going to be around 7 Mile and Berg area.
And is it fair to say then that this phone was interacting with those towers at the times you indicated around the 7 Mile and Berg area?
Yes.
And can you go back up to the first page? In row 1, what is the time there?
Row 1 is going to be on January 10th of 2024, 23:40, which is 11:40 p.m.
And then the last row, what is the time on the last row?
January 10th of 2024 at 23:59. And that was just because the officer had asked for just that day. It actually indicates that it stays there for a little bit more in the morning.
Okay, how much more in the morning did you go?
We actually have it on the next exhibit.
Oh, perfect. And so that phone on this exhibit was there from 11:40 to, at the very least, midnight almost on the 10th, correct?
The time advance records, yes.
And again, this is time in advance. This is the passive interaction, no input from the phone or the user, correct?
Yes, no calls, no text, no nothing. This is just the signals that the base station is getting to the device.
And going to exhibit 39. And can you tell us what we're looking at on the front page of 39?
So this is going to be essentially a combination of the last 2 exhibits that we just saw. So this is going to be from January 10th of 2024 at 9:49 p.m. or 21:49 to January 11th of 2024, the next day, or the next morning at 1:34 a.m.
Okay. And going to the second page of this exhibit now. First, on the far left side of the screen, what area is that again that we're looking at?
On the far left of the screen is going to be the red dot indicating 7 Mile and Bird.
And that's the same area that we saw in the last exhibit in 38, right?
Yes.
And in terms of what rows correspond to that one, how long was that phone there in that area into the next morning on the 11th?
You have, okay, so starting with row 1, it's down in the purple area, bottom right-hand screen. You see that the purple dot indicates 4 East Alexandria, which we looked at a map from earlier. And then it goes to the, it's actually still there around the area of 4 Alexandrine, which is the purple on line 2. Then you see it start to traveling up to number 3, which is in the light blue area, which is in the middle one, just above the dark red. And then you see it show to the dark blue after the light blue, which is going to be still traveling north. And then that 7 Mile in Greenfield, which is that blue dot, and then going over to the 7 Mile in Bird.
And the 7 Mile in Greenfield, we looked at that one, I believe it was
We did.
36.
Yes.
And so where does the phone end up and at what time is the last entry for the 7 Mile and Bird area?
So the 7 Mile and Bird area is at 134.13, number 8. And then you see that big kind of curved line, that's actually going to be line number 9. And that's when he's, I'm sorry, the device is essentially, moving away from the location.
And so that phone then was there from, in that area of 7 Mile and Bird from about 12:40 to 1:34.
12:40,
Sorry, 11:40.
11, yeah. Yes, 11:40 p.m. to around 1:34 a.m. on the 11th.
And on the 11th at 1:34 a.m. it starts to move away, which is row number 9 on the first station.
Yes.
Oh. And you had mentioned earlier that part of the search warrant return from T-Mobile includes subscriber information, correct?
Yes.
And did you get the subscriber information for this phone, target phone number that we've been talking about?
Yes.
And do you remember what the name associated with this is?
One of the subscribers didn't show any information. The other subscriber had, it was spelled wrong. It's like Jaris.
And what was the last name?
Butts.
Butts?
I believe so.
We have one moment.
Yes.
Can you go back to the exhibit that we were talking about, the Park Crest Motel? I believe that's exhibit 36, correct? And what's the address for the Park Crest Motel that's listed on there?
20,000 Harper.
Okay. Maybe I misheard you. I thought you said 2,000 earlier. I just wanted to-
Oh, I apologize. It's 20,000.
20,000 Harper?
Yes.
Okay. Nothing further.
I have one question. Back on exhibit 38, the last, the 7 Mile and Bird was in the top left corner.
Yes, sir.
I guess this one works when it's up.
It's 38.
This is 38?
It's
Okay.
39.
Yes. 39. So there's an image of a house in the bottom right in purple. You have blue, it's a car. The left is 7 Mile and Burke's shoes. What does that indicate? Or footprints?
I believe there was possibly some evidence there.
Okay, I didn't know what the different images.
No.
I don't know if you have questions based off of that.
No, yeah. Unless, yeah, well. Another.
Okay, cross.
Good morning, Sergeant Ward.
Good morning.
You're an expert. I'm not. So I just want to go through some things, okay? So the cell phone data you have, you call it historical, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So there are 3 ways that you can find phone location, correct?
There's a lot of different ways you can find information.
Fair enough, but 3 primary GPS information from the phone, right? The phone has a GPS and you can get GPS information from the phone.
That's not what we deal with.
Right, but I'm just saying that is a way of
That could
locating
be
the
a
phone.
way.
And you can triangulate phone call, correct?
We don't do triangulation. The mapping that you're looking is not triangulation.
So what you're doing is what's called cell site location information.
No, we're doing, the calls report, they actually give you a physical Latin long for the tower. They also give you the azimuth, which is the central location of the area coverage.
Called
So we're
CDR.
actually putting all the information that they give to us and putting it on a map.
Right, it's called CDR, correct?
Call detail records.
Call
yes.
detail record, okay. So the call detail record is basically a bunch of numbers that tell you this phone is communicating with a tower in a certain area, correct?
Yes,
And from that, you come up with the cell site location information, correct?
no, they give you the cell site location information. That's the Latin long of the cell tower. They give you that.
Who gives you that?
The cell phone company, that's the call detail record.
Okay. And I think you mentioned this is all historical information
Yes,
and it's an interpretation, so it's not 100% accurate, correct?
when you say 100% accurate, the cell towers are the Latin long, there's no interpretation there. You're talking about the intended area coverage?
Right.
The intended area coverage, they give you an azimuth, okay? And then that intended area coverage is generally around 66 or so degrees area coverage.
Okay. So the cell phone, the information you get is the phone connecting with a tower, sending information that tells you this is the location of the phone.
For call detail records, they give you the tower, Latin long, the actual address of the tower. They also supply the intended area coverage, which is the beam width of how, how far or how big the intended area coverage is, along with the azimuth, which is why we do it in the shape of a V. So they're giving you the V shaped and the azimuth that gets smack dab in the middle. So they're telling us that's the intended area coverage.
That is the intended area.
Yes.
Okay. And Sergeant, it's true that the cell phone is going to get a signal from the tower that it gets the strongest signal from, right?
Generally speaking, yes.
That doesn't necessarily mean it's the closest, correct?
No, it doesn't have to be the closest.
Okay, and there are factors that will affect which tower or what sends out the strongest signal, correct?
Yes, there could be factors.
Okay. Things like the distance from the tower, obviously. The height of the tower, would that affect it?
What normally affect, I mean, it could, but what normally it's gonna affect anything regarding, connection to a tower, possibly weather, tall buildings, if you have a huge event where there's a ton of people trying to get on it, like, Fort Field or America. Those are the types of things that can determine where the tower is gonna be. However, here in the Metro Detroit area, it's still gonna be approximately a mile because we have so many towers that they can connect to. So you're not gonna get one, that's like 20 miles away. It's still gonna be within a mile radius.
Thank you for handling that. Now, is it also true that the tower isn't actually owned by the cell phone company?
So they can lease it out, but you have the person that actually makes it, and then you have AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon. They can all utilize any of the towers that you see here.
Right. So your information is from T-Mobile, correct?
Yes,
And from that very same tower, let's say AT&T could have phone calls coming in, correct?
possible.
So there's no way to tell a phone call AT&T has put a close tower, right? At the same time, T-Mobile,
They're not gonna be on the same network.
they're not going to be the same, but they're using the same tower.
You have the cellular network, but you have AT&T that is going to utilize towers. You have T-Mobile is going to utilize some, you have Verizon is going to utilize some. Some lease them out to other people, but you're not gonna, I don't know exactly what it is to track.
So you're saying that it doesn't matter how many users are utilizing the tower, it just matters whether or not they're on the same bandwidth?
You have a SIM card that goes into each and every single phone, so, and that's on their network. So you're not gonna get onto an AT&T network from a T-Mobile phone or vice versa. That's how they do their billing. That's how they, ensure that they have all the information that you receive is accurate. You're not gonna have an AT&T phone,
That's not my question. My question is, can a single tower be utilized by multiple companies at the same time? Would that weaken the capacity of that tower?
I'm not an engineer. I don't know how big this tower is. Any specific tower, that's something you have to ask yourself.
It's also true that a cell phone can attach to a tower up to 20 miles away. Correct.
So it could in, let's just say, Alaska or rural areas in Colorado in the mountains where you don't have that many people, and so they have bigger towers that go further distances because they're not servicing as many people as you would, let's say in Detroit. Detroit, we have so many towers here, but they're not going to utilize something that's 20 miles away and skip over, the hundreds of towers that you have right here. It's not good. That's not, I'm not saying never, but that doesn't really happen here in Detroit. I haven't seen one of these.
Okay. And they're generally overlap, and I think one of the slides you had, they're overlap in these towers, correct?
When you say overlap,
Meaning that a single area can be covered by multiple towers.
that's generally how it is. You have one tower. I mean, even in the ones that we're looking at, you have one tower with multiple cells on there. So this is for T-Mobile or any company to make sure that they have coverage that you don't lose your service. You could have one cell facing this way, then here, then here, then here, then here. They're all going to overlap to ensure that the person has coverage of their service. So yes, you have to be lucky.
So basically, the day you said that you use a program called Fiance. What is that?
I think it's a program that we're able to receive the detailed records, input it, and basically just puts it in a readable format. So, for example, all of the call reports that you see come in Universal Time Coordinated, or UTC time. Henley will make the time adjustments so that we'll have it in Eastern Standard Time versus having everything that you see and you have to do it in your head, -4 on each, or -5 on each of these ones.
So all Penny does is convert the time. It doesn't.
It does a whole bunch of other stuff too. We can do many different reports. You can do a call frequency report, see how many times that a specific call report, called a specific person. There's a lot of different things they can do. You can do tower jumps on them. There's multiple things that they can do. But basically, they're able to give us reports in readable format that you'll be able to understand versus looking at just raw records.
So you get raw records from the phone company, correct?
Yes,
Do you know if there's any error in the records that you get or in the data that you receive from the company?
do I know if there's any error
Right.
in the raw record? I would have nothing to compare to. That's the information that they give us.
Okay. So you don't know if the information that you receive is 100% accurate.
So that information is certified by the cell phone company.
So we're in the Detroit area, and this is just, we're in the Detroit area, right? We're across the border from Canada, right?
Yes,
Have you ever gotten a message from Detroit that says you are roaming in Canada?
yes,
Okay. But you're not in Canada, right?
correct.
So that would be an error, right?
Yes,
So the cell phone can make an error, right?
that's not an error. They ask you if you want to utilize those towers, and they charge you for it. You either say yes or no. If you connect to them, you're being charged for that, and they notify you in call detail records when you're out of utilizing international, or Canadian towers.
Okay. You also mentioned that there were multiple subscribers on this phone.
Yes,
So there was more than one phone?
no. So you had the information from, I believe it was Sprint, who merged with T-Mobile.
Okay.
So now it's T-Mobile, but we received, I believe it was, the Sprint subscriber information and the T-Mobile subscriber information.
Okay. So there's not, so when you said multiple subscribers, you did not mean multiple.
Multiple subscriber reports. There's not multiple phones, it's just one phone.
Okay. And then, of course, you obviously can't say who was using the phone or who was with the phone at the time this phone
No.
was being tracked, correct? Yeah.
Very briefly. Mr. Reagan's asked you about the timing. You mentioned UTC time. Just to be clear, all of the times that we looked at in the exhibits are in Eastern Standard Time, so local time.
Yes.
Okay. And you mentioned something earlier, azimuth.
Yes.
First, can you spell
AZMIUTH.
that? And what is that?
It's just the center of the width of the, basically it's going to be the center of the width of the triangle.
Okay, or the V shape.
Yes, the V shape.
And that has to do with the intended area.
Correct.
And you said that Mr. Reagan asked you about connecting to a tower 20 miles away. Remember that question?
Yes.
You said you had never seen that in Detroit, correct?
That is right.
How many times have you done this analysis? How many times have you put these maps together, different pieces?
Since 2016.
And is that like thousands then, less than that,
Oh, yes.
more than that?
Yes.
Oh. And that's all in the Detroit area or Metro Detroit area?
Yes. Metro Detroit area.
And Sergeant, does the subscriber information that is received has a physical address associated?
I don't know, you have to actually subscribe.
Would that correct, Valerie?
Yeah.
May I question?
Yes.
With the subscriber information. You just state that. Does that refresh memory when a physical address was associated with this, with ECR's police records?
Yes.
And what was that address associated with the target phone in this case?
13362 Wilshire Drive.
I don't agree. Yeah.
At 11. Yes, watch your step, take your time, get upstairs. And once you're situated, that microphone, with the white cap on it, you can pull that whole microphone into your lap or just make sure you're speaking to it when you touch it, okay? Okay, thank you.
May I proceed, Judge?
Yes.
Could you state your name to the record, ma'am?
Valerie, excuse me, Valerie Louise Smith.
And Ms. Smith, I want to call your attention back to March 7th of 2024. At that time, in what area did you live?
That's where I live currently, on 7 Mile Evergreen area.
Okay, and is that near Evergreen and St. Martin's?
Yes,
Okay, is that in the city of Detroit, Wayne County?
yes, sir.
And on March 7th, 2024, did you come into contact with the police?
Yes.
Okay, what was the reason you came into contact with the Detroit Police Department?
I found the lady's ID,
And where did you find
directly across the street from my house.
it? And was it like a driver's license, school ID, or something else?
School ID, is it like?
And when you found that, was that the first time you had seen it there?
No, I stepped over here for 2.5 weeks before I decided to pick it up.
Okay, and is there a reason after 2.5 weeks of noticing there that you decided to
I
pick
just
up?
decided to pick it up that day. I was so much of it. They said, well, let me get it and send it back to whoever it belongs to.
Okay, and when you picked it up, did you read the name on that ID?
Yes,
What was the name on the ID?
Zanaya Harris.
And did that raise any concerns in your mind?
But you did.
What's the reason it raised concerns?
I just heard it on the news before it came up.
You heard her name?
Her name. Yes,
And when you picked it up, did you have gloves on or anything like that?
No.
And you used your bare hand?
I took my thumb and put it. And when I saw the name, I just put my hands on the outside.
And what was the reason you just put your hands on
I
it?
didn't want it to disturb any of the friends that were on there.
And when you picked it up, did you place it in anything?
Once I got to the next stop, I was on the bus line. I took it in the gas station and I did it over here.
Okay, so let's back up for a second. You picked it up and then got onto the bus?
But I still had it like this.
And
I never put my fingerprints anymore.
And for the record, the witness indicated by holding your hands about
Yes.
3 inches apart. For fingers. And when you got to the gas station, did you go into the gas station?
Yes.
And did you tell the people in the gas station about what you found?
Yes, sir. I also told the bus driver what I found.
And then after you told the gas station people, what happened next?
I asked them to call the police for me.
And did they?
Yes.
And then did the police come to your location?
Yes.
And after the police got there, what happened next?
They took me back to my house so I could show them exactly where I found them the idea.
And did you show them that?
Yes,
And did you give them the ID as well?
yes, I gave it to them. The initial photo.
And may I approach?
Yes.
Approaching the people's proposed exhibit 40. Is that, you recognize that? Is that the ID that you found? They move to admit people's proposed 40.
Okay, sure. We'll give it.
And permission to publish those.
Yes.
And Ms. Smith, I don't know if you can see the screen where you are. That's the picture I just showed you, correct?
Yes, sir.
And is that the cup or the top of the
Yes, sir.
lid that you
Yes,
put
sir.
in? Is that yes?
Yes, sir.
And on the bottom left, it says grade 8, correct?
Yes.
I got it.
Any questions?
Ms. Smith, sorry, Marty. Thank you. You said that you picked up the ID, was it March the 6th? Or I'm sorry, the 7th? Yes. And you said you had been stepping over it for approximately 2 weeks?
2.5 weeks, I said.
Okay, so that puts you in February.
When I initially
So
told
you
you.
finished on it, okay. And you said you've been stepping over it? So does that mean that it was actually on the sidewalk?
No, it was in the grass.
In the grass?
Yes,
The grass next to the street?
yes,
So there's like, usually kind of like easement between like the street and sidewalk?
Yes.
And there's a patch of grass there? Yes. Is that right in front of the bus stop or?
no, there's a little ways off from the stop.
Okay, from the bus stop, between the bus stop and what other landmark would you say?
Nothing else is there.
Nothing else? How far to the corner?
St. Martin's. It's not that far.
Okay, so if you step.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
perfect.
Yes, ma'am.
That's all. Thank you.
Yes. Ms. Smith, just a couple of questions for you. Ms. Quick asked you a couple of questions about specifically where you found it. You said it was in the a patch of grass next to the sidewalk,
Yes,
and you said you had been stepping over it for about 2.5 weeks before you gave it to the police department.
before I decided to pick it up, yes, sir.
The 2.5 weeks that you've been stepping over it at the beginning of that, is that the first time you noticed it?
Yes, sir.
And it could have been there before those 2.5 weeks,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
I think that causes speculation.
I don't think it's a yes or no question.
Oh, she knows how long it's been there. She can only
You
testify.
stand up to the corporate.
Yes, Your Honor. My objection is how can she testify to how long it could have been there prior? She can only testify to what she knows, and she testified that she knew it's been there for 2.5 weeks.
You see it being placed there on the grass?
I'm sorry.
Did you see it being?
No,
placed on
ma'am.
the grass?
No, ma'am.
So I want to sustain objection, because she wouldn't know, she would see it right.
So the first time you noticed it was 2.5 weeks prior to March 2nd.
Yes, sir.
And when you talked to the police officers, did you look at a photo, a Google Street View of your location?
Yes, sir.
And did you indicate on that photo where you found the?
Exactly, yes. They took me, excuse me, they took me back to my house, so I could show them exactly what I can do.
May I approach Rich?
Yes.
I'm approaching with what's going to be marked as people's proposed 62. Do you recognize that, ma'am?
Yes,
And is that the photo that you signed and indicated where you found it?
yes, sir.
At this time, I would move to admit people's proposed 62
No objection.
Would it be admitted?
and permission to publish since I don't have a hard copy.
Yes.
And on the screen, is that the photo I just showed you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and there's a circle with a line going up on the bottom of the screen there. Is that circle where you indicated you found it?
Yes, sir.
Another picture, I think.
I have just a couple questions based on this picture.
Go ahead.
Ms. Smith, so as we look at the picture here, in which direction, left or right, is the bus stop?
To the right.
To the right, so closer to the church? Is that, or that white building that's in the?
No, that's a person's house right there.
Okay,
It was like, okay, I come out of my driveway, and it's like catty corner to the bus stop of my driveway.
well, the sign is where the bus stop is, right?
Yes, right there.
Okay, and so. Okay, that's all I have, thank you.
Another picture.
Okay, Ms. Smith, you are not testifying.
Thank you.
Judge, at this time, we would call Detective Jason Mapes.
You said so, truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I swear.
Whenever you're ready, Ms. Smith.
Thank you. Good afternoon, could you please state your name for the record?
Detective Jason Mays,
And how are you employed?
with the City of Detroit Police Department,
And how long have you been employed as in the city of Detroit?
a little over 21 years.
Is there a specific unit that you're assigned to?
Homicide,
And I'm gonna take you back to February 15th of 2024. Were you working that day?
I was
Were you working alone or with a partner?
with a partner,
Who's your partner?
Detective Lisa Johnson.
And what is it that you were assigned to do that day?
I was tasked with interviewing individual.
And do you remember the name of the individual that you were supposed to interview?
Yes,
Who was that?
Jarvis Butts.
And do you see the person that you interviewed in the courtroom today?
I do.
And can you point to them and tell me the color of the clothing that they're wearing?
The gentleman sitting behind the fence with the green shirt on, the mask.
Your Honor, would the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant in this case?
So reflected.
Thank you. And where did this interview take place?
Detroit Police Department headquarters.
And who was all there in the interview?
Myself, Detective Johnson, and the defendant.
And how was it that Mr. Butts was there?
He was brought there by officers, I believe.
And was Mr. Butts in custody for your purposes at that time?
No,
Was he in custody for other purposes at that time?
I believe so, yes.
Did you ask Mr. Butts if he would talk to you?
I did,
Did you offer him any food or drink, anything like that?
no,
Did you ask if he knew or understood English?
I don't recall that, no. But by speaking with him, I know he understood English.
Okay. Did you ask him like his education level, things like that?
Yes,
Okay. Did you ask if he was under the influence of any narcotics or alcohol?
yes,
And did you advise him of his rights at that time?
I did,
Okay, did you use anything to assist in providing him with his constitutional rights?
yes, the constitutional rights, and I also decided to,
And Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
And you would start with proposed exhibit 20. And please, what it is, I just can't show.
certificate of notification of constitutional rights.
And is that a fair and accurate copy of the constitutional rights that you provided Mr. Butts on February 15th, 2024?
Yes, ma'am.
I move for the admission of people's proposed exhibit 20.
No objection. It will be admitted as People's Exhibit 20.
And on this sheet, did Mr. Butts reflect that he understood and acknowledged his rights at that time?
Yes,
And how is it that he did that?
by taking the signature and dating.
Okay. And who all signs this form?
Myself as a witness and also anyone that's in the room.
Did Mr. Butts exhibit anything to you as an experienced officer with 21 years that would make you believe that him talking to you wasn't voluntary?
No,
And did he agree to speak with you?
he did.
All right. About how long did you guys talk for, if you recall?
I would say the interview may have been, so maybe a couple hours, 2 hours.
And were there any breaks in between that time?
Yes.
And was this interview recorded in any way?
Yes,
How was it recorded?
audio and visual, and the interview.
And I showed you previously in a video of the interview that took place. Do you remember me showing you that?
Yes,
Okay. And when I showed that to you, was that a fair and accurate depiction of the video interview that you took with Mr. Butts back on February 15th, 2024?
yes,
And Your Honor, I move for the admission of people proposed exhibit 21.
No objection. It will be admitted as People's Exhibit 21.
Thank you, Judge. And yeah, I published, I'm not going to play the whole video, it's rather lengthy, but there are parts that I did want to play.
Okay.
First, officer, detective, I'm sorry, did Mr. Butts give you a phone number that he used?
Yes.
Okay, and do you recall what phone number it is that he gave you?
I would have to review my report, but I believe 313-585, something like that.
Okay, when reviewing the report, refresh your memory,
It was,
do you have your copy or?
yeah, I never got it.
Okay.
It's 313-585-8719.
Now I want to jump to 1 hour and 46 seconds. And 1 hour, 46 minutes and 56 seconds. Play at 1 hour, 46 minutes and 38 seconds.
Different women you dealing with, right?
It's not a lie.
Okay.
They know about each other.
You just living your life,
Just-
man. Ain't nothing wrong with
They
that.
know
My
about
women know
it. You
about
got them together. They know what's
I
going
don't have
on.
them together, but they know about each other.
Okay.
Okay. So the reason I'm asking you that, I wouldn't ask you no questions I wouldn't have the answer to, so I'm just
Sure.
trying to understand something. So this right here is a brief synopsis of Zaza's interactions with you and your phone number that you had since 2019.
Okay.
And so right here on the day that I'm concerned with it, you see right here,
Don't forget, be there before. Yeah, that was when she sent it. I was supposed to pick them up that day, but I never responded.
you did.
What I do?
So then the next one, she responded,
Okay, if you send a message.
so I can delete your number.
No, I don't. Like I said, they sent me.
Hold on. Look, before you explain it, just look at the times. They back to back.
Oh yeah.
And we in school. We in school. And then right here, she tells you to respond. Okay, that's you. That's received.
I did receive.
So, and you said okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
So those, like I said, those are the numbers they were sending me.
And pausing at 1 hour, 48 minutes and 7 seconds. I want to go backwards. Time. To 1 hour, 13 minutes and 49 seconds.
So, okay, so yeah, that's what we saw. Okay. All right. So your original date was in what was your original date to time?
November the 20th, the day before my birthday of last year.
That's when it happened?
Oh no, when that case happened?
No. When did you supposed to get sentenced? Because we got 2 dates. We got a January date.
So what happened was I was supposed to get sentenced last year, the day before my birthday. We went to court, whatever the case may be. They adjourned it to January the 9th.
That's the day we got.
Right. So I had a legal issue pending. And I asked to get it extended so I could take care of my legal issue in Clinton Township. That was January the 25th. So after that, then they scheduled it for February the 7th.
To go.
Yes.
Right.
And I'm pausing at 1 minute or 1 hour, 44 minutes and 44 seconds. One hour, 15 minutes and 52 seconds.
Okay.
All right. So what's your relationship with Zaza? Like on the day to day? Like, are y'all have any interactions? Just y'all y'all got a niece uncle relationship?
Yeah, we kind of like niece uncle, and I also get her and my daughter from time to time.
Your daughter who?
Janiyah.
How you spell it?
J-A apostrophe N-I-Y-A-H.
Janiyah what?
Butts.
Go ahead. How old is she?
She's 10.
Black female, 16. Okay.
No, she's 10.
10.
Oh, I thought you said you so soft spoken, brother. Okay. 10. Okay. Go ahead.
So I get them from time to time. I do cleanups.
Okay.
A lot of times, sometimes I used to use them, and then when I worked at my old job, Frank's, I used to have them come and clean up my office and my bathroom and stuff, like probably like twice a month, give or take.
Okay. And where's Frank's at?
That's on East 1 and F.
Did you pay him?
And pausing at 1 hour, 17 minutes and 3 seconds. starting at 1 hour, 22 minutes and 1 second.
What's your password to your phone?
That's a facial.
It's a facial recognition?
Yeah, it's a facial.
So if you wasn't able to use your face, you still have a pen, what's that number?
04
04
1925.
1925. Okay, so, alright, so, cause I need to know the last time you talked with her, okay, brother?
No problem. It's not-
Alright, so would you be willing to give me a consent to do that real quick?
Yeah.
Thank you. What type of phone you got?
iPhone.
iPhone, what?
I don't know, 11, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't mess with iPhones. You looked at me like, what kind of?
JRVIS.
I'm sorry, man.
We have a
What?
Javaris we work with.
Yeah, I work with a
So
Jarvis.
we keep trying to spell out his name.
Alright, so, iPhone, what color is it?
Glass.
Okay, it's glass. You said it's 11? And then your phone number 313-585-8719. The password is 041925. And that's not anything else.
When the last time you used that phone?
Right before I got locked up.
Okay.
Matter of fact, the morning before I turned myself in.
Okay, did you cut the phone off or is it still on?
No, I cut it. I turned it off. It's still on as far as company-wise.
Company-wise, right, okay. Where did you leave the phone?
It was actually with one of my girlfriends, man, because she brought
Hold on, wait a minute. Wait, hold on, back up. Let me handle this.
Please.
I missed that.
You don't understand. I can't understand.
Yeah.
Hold on, I heard you say baby mama,
Yeah.
13 kids,
Yes.
fiance.
Yes.
You live with who do you live with?
Angel Lena, my
That's the fiance.
Yes.
And you got a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Okay, player. One of the 5 heartbeats?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I actually used it before I went to sentencing.
Okay. So she has your phone? She had your phone.
From my understanding, the police have my phone.
Now who did they get it from?
Her.
We asked because we don't know this info.
From my understanding, they conducted a raid on her house.
Okay.
Why are they raiding her house?
I don't know. That's the same thing.
But she had the phone.
But the phone was in her possession.
Okay.
So,
And that's where you left it when you got locked
In
up.
my jacket in the car.
Okay.
Yeah.
what type of car?
Suburban.
What color?
Tan.
Okay, I'm gonna go check.
Is that your car or her car?
Hers.
Oh, okay.
Pausing at 1 hour, 24 minutes and 50 seconds. I'm playing at 1 hour, 32 minutes and 16 seconds.
To the snacks, whatever the case may be. And I know she was getting older, so she was into certain things. Like I come up, she had little fingernails and shit on.
Mm-hmm.
And I know grandma wasn't.
So why just not give it to her then?
I earned it.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So the
just-
value, so it's a mentor thing.
Yeah,
then.
so earn it.
So you mentor, would you talk to them about anything? Or?
Depending on, certain little things, I would ask them how school would be. Nothing serious, like I say, I wouldn't pry too much in the family business. That would be kind of thing. But like I said, everything that you had to do, you had to earn it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So if you wanted something, earn it.
Mm-hmm.
You appreciate it more. So that was my whole thing on that. So me, I used to just give it to them. They would take advantage. Every time I pull up, do that, like this, do that. And it's a lot of kids over there, so I can't keep giving
Yeah, not
everybody $5, and that looks real bad if I just give you money every time you have asked for it, or she asks for it, and I can't give it to everybody else. So therefore, you guys want something, I got a job for y'all. If I have something for you to do, I'll call and let you know. Every time they come, it would be $25 a piece, depending on.
Okay. So, alright. So, I want to ask you about this area real quick.
me see that. Confirm that photo.
Oh,
Make sure we're talking about the same person.
What's that?
that's Zaza.
So,
What's her government name?
that's I.
Zaza.
You know about when that picture might have been taken or where?
I don't.
Does she look like that last time you saw her?
Not at all.
What she look like the last time you saw her?
She had longer braids. She had long braids.
Any color in her braids?
Not that I know of. Matter of fact, she was getting her hair did the last time I saw her.
Okay.
So it wasn't even done, so I don't even know what it was. But
You talking about back and forth between the houses? Getting her hair done?
last time I was there in the basement.
So she wasn't back and forth.
That day, no. The last time I seen her, she was getting her hair did. Yes, she was. She was back and forth because the dude, I guess the dude, little sweetie, he stayed next door. So she was going back and forth with him next door, but they were in the basement at the grandmother's house getting her hair did.
Pausing at 1 hour, 35 minutes and 6 seconds. Playing at 1 hour, 44 minutes, 34
It was
seconds.
right around there.
Okay, but not on the knife though.
Not that I don't, like I say, not that I can recall.
Okay.
But you can ding my phone. I'm over there quite often, man.
Okay. So yeah, you can do some amazing things with these phones. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just trying to think about some stuff.
Okay. So when I was asking you about you had any contact or text message or did anything with Zaza, you said that you didn't. That you don't have any contact with her like that at all. Is you can't think of any of the last time that you talked to her?
Not right off the top of my head, boss man.
Okay. Were you supposed to meet her anywhere? Zaza?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Okay. So if
Pausing at 1 hour, 45 minutes and 37 seconds. Playing at 1 hour, 15 minutes and 44 seconds.
girls are young girls is fast and things like that. So I'm not accusing you of nothing, but some of the stuff we can't just.
So ping me,
I gotta
boss. Like I
ask you.
said, ping me, boss. I can't.
So I just
do a
went-
lot. I do a lot.
Mm-hmm. So
So-
so can you kind of help me out, like what went on this day, or point me in the right direction?
What on that day, boss? What you insinuating?
I'm not saying wait.
I'm about to say, what do you mean?
No, I'm not saying anything. What I'm trying to say is what happened here, brother. Like,
I can't tell you what happened. Like I say,
why would she be texting you that if I wasn't meeting? So if you was meeting,
I'm supposed to meet them at the house.
it's okay to meet her.
Right.
So that's
Saying them, who?
Her and my daughter.
So that's
I'm
one.
supposed to pick them up at that house, at their grandmother's house on Bedford. Like I say, from time to time, I had jobs for them, and I did tell them the day.
Let me see, because the location she didn't put at my grandma's house.
Well, they're supposed to have been at because they got out of school or whatever time. I was waiting on my daughter to get out of school.
Mm-hmm.
I don't pick one up without the other. Bottom line. I don't pick one up without the other.
So it wasn't
Pausing at 1 hour, 51 minutes and 54 seconds. And I'm playing at 1 hour, 52 minutes and 47 seconds.
okay. Did she ever confide in you about like having any troubles with with girls or with boys?
The grandmother knew about the situation she had with some girls. Like, supposed to get jumped on or something like that. I'm not sure, but they knew about that situation. Yeah, they knew about all that, boss. I'm sitting up here, man, I'm giving you consent to everything that I got. My phone.
So why would she tell you to why would she have to delete your number from her phone?
She wasn't talking about my number.
She wasn't.
She was talking about the number that she called me from. Like I said, they call from different numbers. The auntie,
No,
this text now shit.
So I can, right.
Right, so
delete,
my number.
No. So I can delete your number.
So I can delete, and I don't know why she would say my number, bro. Because anything that we do, like I said, it's always like that. And when they call me from text now numbers and all that bullshit, so I'm assuming she was sneaking when she said that. Like I said, I don't have no reason to hide nothing, boss. My phone is what it is, and everything is in my phone. Y'all have possession of my phone. Take a look at it, go through it. So I don't know what that's about. I don't know why would she say delete my number.
So you saying that you didn't meet up, right?
I promise to Jesus I didn't meet up with that young lady.
Promise to Jesus.
Yes, I promise to God I didn't meet up with that. We never got, like I said, when she sent me that text message, I was supposed to pick them up. We never got a chance to anything because
Who you know in your time?
Is that who I know at Ipsy? We were doing a job in Ypsilanti.
On the night?
The 9th, yeah, we were doing a job, mobile job. I don't know who the lady is.
Pausing at 1 hour, 54 minutes and 42 seconds. Nine, playing at 1 hour, 56 minutes and 53 seconds.
She knew that she was supposed to be calling me.
Did you tell the mother or anybody that she had just listen?
I told my child's mother that that she had texted me.
That day?
Yes.
To meet you?
Yeah, no. I told her that she had texted me and I asked what number was this. She was like, I don't know. I gave her the number. She said she didn't know what number that was.
So you see that y'all had correspondence the day before, on the 8th?
Yeah, from the same number. What does it say?
Yeah. So
it said, what are you doing?
Right, that's you.
That was me saying what I'm doing?
Yeah, she's saying that she asking you was at work and you responded, what you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing?
So y'all have back and forth conversations.
Not like that, boss. Like, man, like I said, they call me when I have jobs, and I told you when I have jobs.
But I guess the way at the beginning of this, and again, I'm just trying to understand, bro.
Right. So I can try to catch
no, you wait a minute. Listen, brother. Again, at the beginning of the conversation, I asked, did you ever speak with her on the phone or text message? And you said that you either speak with the grandmother or you speak with your child's mother.
Or they call me and ask me and harass me, and I call the grandmother and let them know that they did that.
But here, we having back and forth conversations one-on-one.
Okay, what is the conversation, boss?
Okay, this is.
And I'm pausing at 1 hour, 58 minutes and 24 seconds. In fact, it's fair to say that those were just clips of this interview.
Correct.
And your conversation with Mr. Butts continued on into other kind of topics too.
Correct.
Okay. Did Mr. Butts say the last time that he saw Nizaya before she went missing?
Yes, he stated to me that he had last seen her at the end of December or early January, sometime at the grandmother's house.
Okay. And did he say anything about knowing where Nizaya's bus stop was?
Yes.
Okay. What did he say about that?
He said that the bus stop was at a 3-mile drive in Cornwall.
And when you guys are talking, and you mentioned the name Zaza, who is he referring to as Zaza?
Just he was talking about
And you were showing Mr. Buck some text messages. What were the messages that you were showing him? Where were they from?
Cell phone that were from I got that information from the officer in charge of the case. I don't know exactly where it was extracted from. I would have to review the document.
Okay, were they from like a cell phone provider, were they from an app, something like that?
I believe they were from the app.
Okay. And was it your understanding that those were messages between Mr. Buck, the defendant, and Ms. Harris?
Absolutely.
Okay. And the photo that you showed Mr. Butts, where he identified Ms. Harris, I want to show you people's, it's already been exhibit 12. Can I approach? Yes. Is this similar to the photo that you showed Mr. Butts in your interview?
Yes.
What's the only difference? If there is any.
It appears to be the same. I feel like my picture was zoomed in a little bit.
Okay, so just a smaller version. Was yours in color also?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And is this the one where he identified as Ms. Harris?
Yes.
I don't think I have time.
Declaration.
Yeah.
So, let me ask you, first of all, your role in this case, were you primarily just interviewed Mr. Butts, or were you involved in the greater investigation?
Mainly for the interview. I assisted on the search.
Okay. So, you interviewed Mr. Butts on February 15th, correct?
Yes.
Okay. He was already in custody, correct?
Yes.
And where did this interview take place?
Detroit Police Headquarters.
Okay. Did you take him, transport him, or was he already there with you?
He was already there.
Okay. So you don't know what conversation was had with him prior to getting there, correct? Okay. How long was he there prior to you seeing him? Did you know? Okay. But it was you and your partner, Lisa Johnson?
Yes.
All right. You came to the room, correct? And he was already in the room when you came in?
Yes.
And you said that you didn't offer him any food or drinks?
No.
Okay, do you know, have he had a chance to use the restroom?
No.
Okay. So you begin the interview with the reading of his constitutional rights.
Yes.
All right. And you said you believed he understood English. He understood everything you said, correct?
Correct.
And you read the rights from him.
Yes.
Did he read them to you, or did you read them to him?
I recited them to him first.
Okay.
And then I asked him to go over it and read it. So,
Okay, you didn't have him read them out loud?
I can't recall. I can't recall. No.
All right, and he initialed behind each one of those, right?
Yes.
You had him verify his phone number, correct?
Correct.
First of all, let me ask you, what was Mr. Butts' demeanor at the time?
Initially, it appeared to be program.
Okay, so he appeared to answer all your questions, right?
Yes.
Didn't hesitate in answering any of your questions, didn't he?
No.
All right. And it was a conversation between the two, right?
Yes,
You said this, interview took place over 2 hours and 15 minutes, is that what I have?
I believe it was about a couple hours or so.
Okay. So you asked him about his cell phone, correct?
Yes,
He gave you the cell phone, I'm sorry, he gave you his number, right?
yes,
And he even signed off to say, yeah, go ahead and search my cell phone, right?
yes,
Okay. Now you asked him about January 9th, correct?
yes,
And he told you he did not he had a legal issue up in Clinton Township. I'm sorry, he had a legal issue, excuse me.
yeah, he said he had a little issue, yes.
Right. Did you check and verify whether or not that was true?
I did not.
Okay. And you asked him about Desire coming to his shop, correct? I'm sorry, you asked him about his interaction with Desire, correct?
Yes,
And he told you that she would come to his shop from time to time, correct?
yes,
And he would have her do work in his shop, correct?
yes,
And he also told you he had his daughter do work as well, correct?
correct.
Did you verify whether or not that was true?
I did not.
Okay. You asked him about a bus stop, correct?
Correct.
And he said, he told you where this bus stop was, correct?
Correct.
And did you find out how he knew where this bus stop was?
I did not.
I'm sorry?
I did not.
Did he tell you that anyone told him where this bus stop was?
I'm not sure, sir. I can't recall.
You can't recall. Maybe that's true.
I can't.
Can't recall. Okay. Just one moment. Yeah, I have no further questions.
Can you redirect?
I'm Reg.
Okay, we have 4 to 5 left, right, as far as witnesses?
I believe so, Judge. I don't think they're gonna be lengthy.
Okay, we'll come back at 1:45 and finish up.
A bachelor's in biochemistry from Eastern Michigan University. I also have training with the National Forensic Science Technology Center and the Michigan State Police. That was approximately 1 year of testing in biology, forensic biology and DNA analysis.
Okay, so, what kind of training, I guess, do you have to have for your role? That you do, and do you do any continuously?
Yes, so I had the approximately 1 year of training with, I previously mentioned. as well as continuous education, which includes at least 8 hours in DNA specific training, as well as up-to-date journal articles and current technology.
Who I know this is a lot, y'all, but I have to get it in order. But so I'm not sure if they forgot to turn back on the Zoom, but this is the forensic specialist who is now on the stand.
And do you have any certifications or any necessary like licenses for this job?
No, we don't.
And have you testified as an expert before?
Yes, I have.
Where at?
Washtenaw County, Wayne County, St. Clair, Oakland County, federal.
And which approximate how many times have you testified as an expert?
Oh, 40.
And what is it that you testified as an expert in?
On DNA analysis.
Your Honor, move to certify Eric Anderson as an expert in DNA analysis. No objection. Thank you, Judge. I want to talk about this case specifically, and when I say this case, I'm referring to lab number MD 24-691. Did you author reports as it relates to that case number?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And what record numbers did you author?
Record 4, 6, 8. Maybe there's one more. Oh, and 5, sorry.
Okay. So 4, 5, 6, and 8.
Correct.
Okay. And Your Honor, may I approach? Pending marked as people's proposed exhibits 22, 23, 24, and 25. Look at these and recognize what I mean.
These are the reports I authored.
And this exhibit 23, is this a fair and accurate copy of the report you authored as it relates to record number 5?
Yes, it is.
I move for the admission of People's 23.
No objection. People's 23.
Sorry, not People's 22. In proposed exhibit 22, is this a fair and accurate depiction of the report that you authored in record number 4?
Yes, it is.
For the admission of People's 22.
No objection.
Thank you. And in proposed People's 24, is this a fair and accurate depiction of the report you authored as it relates to record number 6?
Yes, it is.
Move for the admission of People's 24.
No objection.
And 25, is this a fair and accurate depiction of the report you authored as it relates to record number 8?
Yes, it is.
And move to admit People's 25.
No objection.
Thank you. Now, may I publish it?
Yes.
Thank you. Introduction. Okay, so looking at People's 22 right now, tell me what is that like these reports just generally start with at the top?
The information that is submitted by the agency with the evidence, which is their agency number, as well as the investigating officer. And then we assign a laboratory number to the case. It also has the date received for that evidence and the date the report was completed.
And who comes up with the nature of offense? Do you list that? Does the police list that?
The agency.
Okay. And what about the victims and suspects? Who lists those?
They also list those on the paperwork when they submit the evidence.
Okay. So in record number 4, what did you do in record number 4?
I interpreted and recorded 2 items of evidence that were submitted.
What were those items of evidence?
A buckle swab from Jarvis Butts and an ID, swabs of an ID card.
And what is it that you did to them? What's the process that you did?
So I'll give you a general overview of the process. When we receive this evidence in our laboratory, it's usually in a small tube, it's cuttings or swabs from evidence. We then extract the DNA, we see how much is present, and then we make many millions of copies of that DNA. We can then get a picture of that DNA profile from the evidence for the individual, and we can compare those. So in this case, I received the buccal swab, and for a reference sample or a buccal swab or blood, known DNA from an individual, everyone has 1 or 2 what we call types at each of the locations within the DNA. So when I see 1 or 2 at one of these locations, I know that's only 1 person. If I'm seeing 3 or 4, 2 people in that sample. So for a reference sample, blood or buccal swab from the inside of someone's cheek, there would only be 1 individual present because that's directly from that individual.
Okay. And what you do, your process doesn't change or alter the DNA in any way, does it?
No, everyone has their own unique DNA profile. It is specific only to that person unless they have an identical twin. Every cell in your body has the same DNA profile that is unique to that individual.
So in record number 4, you came up with rotation. What is that?
So when I look at the kind of the picture of that DNA profile, I'll interpret how many people are there and then make comparisons to any other samples and the evidence.
Okay. So in interpretation number 1, you obtained a profile from the Jarvis buccal swab.
Yes, I did.
Okay, and that was sufficient for comparison purposes.
Correct.
What does it mean to be sufficient for comparison purposes?
So DNA must be above a certain threshold for evidence or references. And in this case, that DNA profile was all above that threshold, and it can then be compared to evidence.
Okay. And the interpretation number 2, you obtained a DNA profile from ID card swabs that was insufficient for comparison purposes.
Correct. The amount of DNA there was just too low and did not make it above that threshold, so I couldn't do anything with it or compare it to anything.
Okay. So you can say there's DNA there, but you can't compare it to anything.
Correct.
Okay. And that was the entire substance of record number 4. Is that fair?
Correct.
Okay. In record number 5, what evidence did you analyze in record number 5?
I received earbuds that were submitted as a possible alternate known. Fabric mattress pad cover cuttings. Plastic mattress cover piece.
And these earbuds, alternate known. What does it mean? What does alternate known mean?
When there isn't a known sample from an individual, occasionally they can bring in, an agency could bring in alternate known. Usually this would be a toothbrush or, something that you knew belonged to them, a comb or something along those lines. And then we could use that as an alternate known for that individual as their known sample.
Okay, so as opposed to there's a straight buccal swab from them or a hair strand from them.
Generally, buccal swabs or blood samples are used as references for known samples.
And in this case, do you know what alternate known you received?
With the alternate reference known possibly for the victim in the case.
Okay. What an alternate known, could that also be like a blood card from the first?
Yes, that there are blood spot cards taken at birth that can be obtained from hospitals to be used as known samples.
Okay, so it'd be a known sample.
Correct.
Okay. And your results in this case, in your interpretations, you stated there was a DNA profile obtained from the earbud swabs that was not sufficient for comparison purposes. Is that the same thing that you were saying for in record number 4?
Correct, yes, it wasn't enough DNA there to make any determinations.
And interpretation number 2 is for the fabric mattress pad cover stain. Why did you assume that it originated from one individual at genetically types as well?
So when I looked at that DNA profile from that mattress pad cover, there was only 1 or 2 types, base location, which tells me that's only 1 person in the sample. I could tell they were male because there was a Y. If it's female, it'll normally be an X present at the locations that determine sex. So I determined that it was 1 individual and they were male.
Okay. And you determined that based on Jarvis Buck's known buckle, he was excluded from the mattress pad cover stain?
Correct, he was excluded from that.
And in interpretation number 3, there's the plastic mattress cover piece swabs. You assumed that there was DNA profiles from 4 individuals, which at least 1 was male.
Correct.
Explain that.
So once again, I looked at each of those locations, and like I said, there's 1 or 2 at each spot. I can also see how they line up with each other. Your DNA will be of the same height at each location, those 2 types. So if 1 is much bigger, that would also tell me that it's 2 people. So in this case, it indicated that there was 4 individuals in this sample, and that at least 1 of them was male.
Okay. And then you made actually a hypothesis and results as it relates to the plastic mattress cover piece swab. Explain, first go through what's the hypothesis?
So I use a mixture interpretation software called StarMix. And what the software does is it breaks that mixture down into its individual components, and it determines which profiles would best fit in that mixture. And using frequencies from the population, I can compare known samples, and it will give me a likelihood ratio, which is how many times more likely that that individual contributed or did not contribute to that mixture than a random individual in the population.
Okay, so in this case, you compared this to a known sample from Jarvis Butts and 3 unknown unrelated.
I only compared him, the hypothesis is that it would be Jarvis Butts and 3 unrelated unknown contributors, or hypothesis 2 or idea 2 is that it's just 4 unknown unrelated individuals. So it compares those 2 ideas and then provides that likelihood ratio.
And you determined there was very strong support that Jarvis Butts was not a contributor to the plastic mattress cover piece swabs.
Correct. 750 billion times more likely that it originated from those 4 unknown unrelated individuals than Jarvis Butts and 3.
Moving on to record number 6. What evidence did you analyze here?
I received shower drain swabs.
And just for clarification purposes, in record number 5 and in record number 6, these mattress cover pads, plastic mattress pads, shower drain swabs, do you have any idea where these are coming from?
No, they were just given to me in a tube from a previous analyst.
Okay. All right, so you said you did shower drain swabs. What was your hypothesis of this?
So I determined that there was, once again, 4 individuals in that sample, with at least 1 of them being a male.
And so your hypotheses were essentially the same thing as the record before?
Correct.
Okay. So in this one, you said you had moderate support that Jarvis Butts was not a contributor to the shower drain swabs. Explain that.
So the best way to think of this likelihood ratio is kind of like a teeter-totter. So on one side is hypothesis 1, that Jarvis Butts and 3 other individuals. And the other side is just 4 unrelated unknown contributors. So think of it as tilting one way or the other. So very strong support one way, very strong support the other way, or you could have just moderate support or just limited support, which would be just, you know, a little bit of a tilt, or they could be fully excluded from the sample. So in this case, it was 4.6 thousand times more likely that it originated from those 4 unrelated individuals than Jarvis Butts and 3 other individuals, which is moderate support that he's not a contributor. So it's tilting that way, just not all the way.
And in record number 8, what evidence did you analyze here?
I received black hoodie stain swabs, another set of black hoodie stain swabs, black hoodie swabs, pink bodysuit stain swabs, pink bodysuit swabs, as well as Najaya Harris blood card.
Now, what kind of testing did you do in record number 8?
The same as the previous records.
Okay, and that's autosomal DNA?
Yes.
Now, going through this, you were able to have a sufficient amount of DNA for comparison for Najaya Harris's blood card?
Correct.
Okay. In your first or your second interpretation, this is as it relates to black hoodie stain swabs. This is 5 AD stain swabs. What were your hypotheses here?
I determined that there were 2 individuals in that black hoodie stain swab, first one, 5 AD. And I would compare each of the known individuals to the sample. So initially it would be Jarvis Butts and on one unrelated unknown contributor, and then on the other hypothesis would be 2 unrelated unknown contributors. So based on those results from the black hoodie stain swabs, it was approximately 460 times more likely if it originated from Jarvis Butts and an unknown contributor than if it was from 2 unrelated unknown contributors. And this provides moderate support that Jarvis Butts is a contributor to the black hoodie stain swabs.
And you can't say what that stain was, can you?
No.
And then you said you did one for Jarvis Butts and you did one for Najaya Harris.
Correct. So when comparing Najaya Harris, it's approximately 3.7 million times more likely if it originated from Najaya Harris and 1 unrelated contributor than if it were from 2 unrelated unknown contributors. And this provides very strong support that Najaya Harris is a contributor to the black hoodie stain swabs.
And in interpretation 3, this is the second of the black hoodie stain swabs, 5BD. When they're separated like that, when you have like 5BD and 5AD, does that tell you that there's different parts that are being swabbed, different areas?
Generally, it will be 2 different stains on the same item, but the person that actually took those swabs, they would best be able to describe where they were collected from.
So as it relates to 5BD, the black hoodie stain swabs, what did you find there?
That was 1 individual in that sample, and it genetically typed as female.
And so if that's the case, what was your hypothesis then?
So comparing Najaya Harris to that sample, it was 3.6 octillion times more likely if it originated from Najaya Harris than if it was from an unrelated unknown contributor. And this provides very strong support that Najaya Harris is the contributor to that black hoodie stain swab. And then I compare Jarvis Butts as well, and he's excluded from his single source samples.
Okay. And would that be because you found that it was only from 1 individual genetically typed as female?
Correct, yeah. When comparing him, he was excluded.
And when you say octillion, not a math person, how many zeros is that?
That is 27 zeros.
And in interpretation number 4, we have just black hoodie swabs in that's 5CD. And you had two analyses here. One with Jarvis and one with Zaya. What did you find as it relates to the comparison with Jarvis?
So the black hoodie swabs, and generally these are taken to see who may have possibly worn it or skin cells opposed to stain swabs. So I determined that this was from 3 individuals. There were 3 individuals in that sample, and at least one of them genetically typed as male. And when comparing it to Jarvis butts, it was approximately 2.1 million times more likely if it originated from Jarvis butts and 2 unrelated unknown contributors than if it originated from 3 unrelated unknown contributors. And this provides very strong support that Jarvis butts is a contributor to the black hoodie swabs.
And what about the comparison to Desire?
When comparing to Zaya Harris, it was 97 sextillion times more likely if it originated from Zaya Harris and 2 unrelated unknown contributors than if it originated from 3 unknown unrelated contributors. And this also is very strong support that Zaya Harris is a contributor to the black hoodie swabs.
And how many zeros after sextillion?
Sextillion is 21. And just for reference, anything over 1 million is considered very strong support.
And next interpretation is to the pink bodysuits that was. You performed this assuming there was 2 individuals. What was your comparison as it relates to Jarvis butts?
Comparing to Jarvis butts, it was 6.3 times more likely if it originated from Jarvis butts and 1 unrelated unknown contributor than if it originated from 2 unrelated unknown contributors. And this provides limited support that Jarvis butts is a contributor to the pink bodysuit stain swabs.
And as it relates to Zaya Harris?
It is approximately 60 septillion times more likely if it originated from Zaya Harris and 1 unrelated unknown contributor than if it originated from 2 unrelated unknown contributors. And this provides very strong support that Zaya Harris is a contributor to the pink bodysuit stain.
How many zeros in septillion?
Septillion is 24.
Then interpreted the pink bodysuit, regular swabs of it. You determined that there was 2 individuals, at least one was typed as male.
Correct.
Tell me your comparison with Jarvis butts.
It was 24 trillion times more likely if it originated from 2 unrelated unknown contributors than if it originated from Jarvis butts and 2 and 1 unrelated unknown contributor. And this provides very strong support that Jarvis butts is not a contributor to the pink bodysuit swabs.
And you had said previously, just the swabs of items, you said they're more related to like a wearer ID type thing?
Generally, if it's possible stain, blood stain, semen stain, it'll have the word stain. When it's just swabs of, generally it is just swabs looking for who was possibly wearing that item. But I did not take the swab, so that person would be able to tell exactly.
And for the comparison with the Zaya Harris, what did you find there?
It was 150 sextillion times more likely if it originated from the Zaya Harris and 1 unrelated unknown contributor than if it was originated from 2 unrelated unknown contributors, which is very strong support that Zaya Harris is a contributor to the pink bodysuit swabs.
I think we said previously that was 21 zeros.
Sextillion, yes.
And what were your findings as it relates to interpretation number 7 of the fabric mattress pad stain cover?
So in the earlier report, we did not have a known sample from Ms. Zaya Harris, so I went back and compared her to those previously submitted evidence samples, one of which was the fabric mattress pad cover stain, which she was excluded as a contributor to that stain. Also,
Yeah, you could.
also to the plastic mattress cover piece swabs, which if you'll remember, that was 4 individuals. When comparing her, it was 430 million times more likely if it originated from 4 unrelated unknown contributors than if it originated from Neziah Harris and 3 unrelated unknown contributors. And this was very strong support that Neziah Harris is not a contributor to that plastic mattress cover piece swabs. The final was the shower drain swabs. That was also 4 individuals. And that was 13,000 times more likely if it originated from 4 unrelated unknown contributors than if it originated from Neziah Harris and 3 contributors. And that was strong support that Neziah Harris is not a contributor to those shower drain swabs.
Yeah. Nothing else in the packet.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So when you received the swabs, you said in separate tubes, each swab or cutting, whatever you would be testing, it comes in a separate tube.
Correct.
And it's all labeled with a number that corresponds with the file that you're working on. Is that correct?
Correct. Each one has its own ID. Yes.
Okay. And what other communication did you receive with those swabs?
We have submission paperwork, and that is in our system loaded, as well as all of the worksheets from the analysis that we go through. There's chain of custody. I mean, all this is within our system, but we only receive that initial information when we submit it. That paperwork. Occasionally we'll have a police report or something, but in this case, I didn't see one.
You didn't have one in this case?
I did not have one in my case file.
Did you have any communication with Sergeant Shannon Jones before you did the testing?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Did you know, was there a name associated with this file that you knew of before you did the testing?
There are, like I said, names within the case file. Generally, we process samples in batches and we don't we look at all that before we get started until we sit down to actually write the case, and those profiles are already complete.
Okay, and I'm gonna try to get some information from you just on how that process works, because I have a limited understanding of DNA, so correct me when I mess up. But as I understand it, when you're running these samples, essentially you come up with, ultimately for interpretation, kind of a line that shows peaks, and that is, those are the things that you're comparing. Is that fair to say?
So we look at 24 different areas within the DNA, and 2 of those will just give me the sex of the individual, if they're male or female, if there's a male included. On the other 22, it will be 2 like peaks basically at each location, and you'll have either 1 or 2 each individual.
And there could also be other peaks. So typically you have some that are taller than others, but you could also have shorter peaks. Is that fair to say?
If there's multiple people in that sample, I'll see maybe several peaks, and that's how I would determine how many individuals are in that sample.
Or things that you might interpret as, like, I think they call it stutter.
We possibly, it's a kind of a normal part of the system. There are these peaks that are expected, and they generally are filtered out. Occasionally they get a little high, but we know what they are.
And I was gonna say, so then when you see this chart, is that part of your interpretation to kind of exclude that as something of significance?
The stutter peaks?
Yes.
Yes, I would evaluate if any of those peaks could possibly be stutter or not.
Okay. And I think you answered this, but I just want to make sure. How many loci did you test?
There's 24 total loci.
And that's what you tested?
Correct.
Okay. And that's of like the 3 million base pairs that exist, fair to say? And there's 150,000 loci in the human genome, correct?
Yeah, this is the standard for forensic testing, yes.
It's 24. And so I think you indicated in almost all the things that you tested, they were mixed samples, except for the two initial, the buccal swab and the ID card. Is that fair to say? More than one contributor?
Yes, except for the mattress stain swaps, I believe was a single contributor. Otherwise, yes,
Okay.
more than one individual.
The black hoodie swab, the non-stain swab. I think your report indicates, or your testimony was that there were 3 contributors. Is that correct?
So just wanted to kind of double check to be sure.
Yep. Are you going to refer to your report to that?
Yes, my report. So the second, the 5BD,
Yes.
5BD was only one individual female.
I'm sorry, I guess I'm looking at.
The hoodie swabs, not the same, you said?
Correct.
Yes, that was determined to be 3 individuals present.
Okay. And I think your report says that at least one was male.
Correct. I can't determine how many males, just that at least one is male because there was a black in the sample.
Okay, so fair to say there could have been 2 male contributors and 1 non-male, 1 female contributor.
Yeah, and all I know is there's at least one in those 3.
Okay. Now, is it the program that determines the statistical number, the probability, or how is that determined?
I determine how many individuals are in the sample, and then the software determines that likelihood ratio.
Okay. Because you're only receiving swabs or cuttings, you don't actually see pictures of what the items are that the stains came from or the swabs came from. Is that fair to say? Or do you?
They are in the case file. I did see them in this case. So sometimes I'll look at them, and sometimes I'll just write the report unless there's a need to see them. They're not always provided, but.
Do those pictures indicate to you where the different samples might have been taken from, or the swabs may have been taken from?
Yes, the pictures in this case were taken by the previous analyst that provided the samples to me. So she would have actually examined the evidence itself, took the pictures, as well as where any swabs or cuttings were taken.
So the previous analyst would be testing for genetic material in general. Is that fair to say, like saliva, blood, semen, stuff like that? She's the one that's making that determination.
Yes, she would do any body fluid testing, such as blood, semen, saliva, and then any swabs of just for skin cells.
Okay. DNA can degrade over time, fair to say?
Over time and in certain conditions, sure.
Weather, stuff like that.
Potentially as sunlight can degrade DNA.
The elements in general, bacteria.
Yes.
Okay. And so when it degrades, does that mean that the DNA molecule itself is breaking down?
Yes, degrading, yeah.
And what is the impact of that on a DNA test?
It could just be lower than it would have been. So there's still a profile, it's just lower. We also see a very specific pattern when something is degraded, where it is, instead of peaks kind of being nice and straight, they kind of ski slope off. So we can identify it.
Okay. Could it mean that you get an incomplete or a partial profile?
Sure, yeah.
Was that a factor at all in any of the swabs that you tested in this case?
I didn't see any very specific that pattern that I was talking about. I didn't see that. Some of the samples are lower, so they may have been possibly, if they were in the elements, degraded or diluted.
So you mentioned that when you're looking at a profile, if you see a Y chromosome, that indicates to you that there's a male contributor to that sample.
Correct.
And trying to say this in the least amount of words possible. And so if you have a mixed sample, you can do, or one of the ways to determine the male profile would be to use a Y-STR analysis. Is that correct?
Yes, we do offer testing that specifically looks at only that Y chromosome in our lab, and I don't perform that testing personally.
Somebody else would perform that?
Yeah, so when we need it, they will perform it, yes.
And what would indicate, or what would determine when that would be needed?
Generally, it's in samples where it's a mixture usually from a female, let's say a body swap, and there's so much of her DNA, it's overwhelming the small amount of male DNA present. So they can do this testing to only look at that Y chromosome so that that large amount of female DNA kind of isn't in the way.
And so this would be done for something like skin cells or saliva or some DNA, some genetic material that's not specific to males. Is that correct? Like you wouldn't need to do that kind of test on semen or something that's
It's any sample where there's just an a large amount of female DNA, but a very small amount of male DNA is generally when we use the testing.
Okay. Would you use it if there were multiple suspected male contributors?
I don't want to speak to that stuff, like when we would use it, since I don't do it.
Okay. Is it possible to use that, or would that be helpful in general?
I have no idea.
Okay, you're not familiar with?
No, I mean, I have the basic understanding, but since I don't actually perform it and I'm not trained in it, I don't want to speak to it.
Okay. Is it the Y chromosome DNA, is that passed down to male offspring?
But the male profile, so you're talking about the YSTR profile, it would be the same?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, from a father to a son.
Correct.
Okay. And that's the Y-STR DNA, right? The
Yes.
Y short tandem repeat.
Correct, yes.
So you could have a similar Y-STR profile between a father and a son because that chromosome is being passed down almost completely unchanged. Is that fair to say? Or is it correct scientifically?
I mean, scientifically, they would have the same, without any mutations, that father and son would have the same Y profile.
Okay.
But in autosomal testing, they would not.
And when you were doing your testing on these samples, we had 2 known profiles, correct?
Correct.
You were testing against Jarvis butts.
Correct.
Yes, and Rosaitis.
That's correct.
You weren't testing it against any other males.
No other references were submitted to us for comparisons.
Okay. So DNA test obviously can't tell you when DNA was deposited on an item. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And it can't say how it came to be put there. Right?
Correct.
Like it could be there's primary DNA, right? If I cut myself and I get blood on my shirt, that would be a primary transfer, right?
Yes.
If I then touch something and get blood on that, then the blood that's on the, say it's on my paper, the blood that's on the paper then would be a secondary transfer.
Yeah, like from your shirt.
Yes.
Correct.
Or say if I hand my pen to Mr. Riggins here, and then he hands it to somebody else, that would be a third. Is that correct?
It's the transfer of the DNA. So I touch this primary, then you come and touch it, my DNA's on it, that would be secondary. And tertiary would be, then that DNA moves again. Of course, each time DNA is transferred, it's lower and lower generally.
Okay. And so then if Mr. Riggins walks away with my pen and leaves it in another room and somebody picks up that pen and uses it, in theory, they could be tested and have my DNA on them, correct?
Possibly.
Even if we were never in the same room together.
Correct.
Okay. transfer can occur also even like in a washing machine, right?
Possibly.
So if clothes are washed together, which is kind of illogical, right? You're washing something, but in reality, my clothes and Mr. Riggins' clothes could be washed together and his DNA could transfer onto my clothes just by virtue of being washed in the same cycle.
Correct.
It just- I don't have anything else, thank you.
Yes.
Read it? Just read it.
You asked some questions about YSTR testing. Would it be fair to say that that's kind of like a secondary test you would do if nothing comes up in autosomal DNA testing?
Correct. That's when we look at that type of testing, is when we don't get results with autosomal.
And is that because in autosomal testing would be a direct match as opposed to just a match on a Y chromosome?
To a, to a Y profile that is shared, yeah.
Okay. So in these reports, you had known samples from Isaiah Harris and known samples from Jarvis funds.
Correct.
Okay. And they were direct autosomal matches to Jarvis funds.
We don't match.
Yeah.
But we would compare them directly, yes.
They were direct comparisons to Jarvis funds DNA.
Correct.
Okay. And so I believe, as you said, he would share Y DNA with his biologically related male children.
Correct.
But his X DNA would not be the same as his biologically related male children.
No, we get half our DNA from our mom, half our DNA from our father. So that's what makes up your DNA profile.
So if he has a male son, their DNA would not compare, it would only be compared comparatively to the Y chromosomes, not the X chromosome.
Yes, so father and son, they would not have the same profile, but they would have the same Y profile, which is not the testing that was done in this case.
Right. This is direct autosomal comparison.
Correct.
Okay. And is it fair to say that people shed or produce or leave DNA at different rates?
Yes, everyone is different in how much DNA you leave behind when you touch something. Things like blood, semen, saliva, we would expect there to be more DNA present in those types of samples versus just touching something in skin cells.
And given that people can shed DNA at a different rate, that's kind of the right way I'm wording it. You can't say whether or not something was a primary transfer or secondary transfer based on the amount of DNA present.
No, I can't say at all how it got there or even if it's a body fluid. I mean, I don't do any body fluid testing, so I can only say what the DNA is and not where it came from or the type of possible fluids.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Judge, if we could do one more. At this time, you will call Lieutenant George Jarvis. May I proceed, Judge?
Yes.
Could you state your name for the record, sir?
George Harris.
And just go back.
You can just take it off the list.
And what do you do currently for a living, sir?
I'm a school safety officer.
Okay. And going back to January of 2024, where were you employed at that time?
Detroit Public Schools Police.
And what did you do for the Detroit Public Schools Police Department?
I was a lieutenant.
And assigned to an investigative division or something else?
I was in charge of the Western Patrol Division and our intelligence unit.
Okay. And did that include, at least on the intelligence unit side, some investigatory roles?
Yes, it did.
Okay. And were you involved in the disappearance and homicide investigation into Messiah Harris?
Yes, I was.
And how did you become involved in that, sir?
The initial report came in that she was missing. A detective was assigned to it. She liaisoned back to me that Zai had a social media account and had communicated through text now. So anytime there was a cyber-related nexus or anything having to do with cell phones or digital communications, I was the person who would handle it with the district for years.
And what is the reason you would handle the sort of cyber or internet portions of investigations?
I had the training and experience.
And as part of the investigation, did you do an initial search warrant to TextNow?
Yes.
Okay, and did you get an initial return for that?
Yes.
Okay, those were the dates of January 8th, 2024, January 26th, 2024, if you remember.
That sounds
about right?
Yes.
Okay. It did go back before January 8th at that time, correct?
That's right.
I will come back to that in a second, but the initial agency investigated Messiah's case. Was that the Detroit Public Schools Police Department?
That's right.
And when did that investigation end?
January 3rd, grandmother reported her missing. One of our officers, Officer Wolf, I believe it was, went out to school, took the report. Canvas was done. Detective Jarvis assigned to the case. And then from there, she liaisoned with me. And I started making my notifications and started working on it from the.
You said January 9th, the report was made?
The 10th, I'm sorry.
The 10th. So that's when the investigation began, and that's when you became notified of this case, correct?
Correct.
And did the investigation stay with the Detroit Public Schools Police Department for the entirety of until today?
No.
When was it transferred and to who was it transferred?
It was transferred to Sergeant Shannon Jones sometime I don't remember the exact date, but it was later in January, maybe early February.
Okay. So
we're getting closer to that 30-day mark.
Around a month?
Yes.
Okay, and what was the reason it was transferred to DPD?
There have been no sightings, nothing that had been heard from her. At that point, the other agencies that I brought in, we ended up shifting it over once. We received some more calls from DPD. The commander of the precinct called me, and we just acted as chief and I, and the deputy chief, and then they decided they were going to take over because it appears that she was not going to be recovered.
Okay. And in regards to your knowledge of the initial investigation by the Detroit Public Schools Department, was there any activity from this side on social media after January?
No, it was not.
Now, you said earlier that you, sorry, after it was transferred to the Detroit Police Department, did you receive a call regarding, from Sergeant Jones regarding a request to confirm an ID that was found, school ID?
Yes.
Okay, and did you receive a copy of that picture of the ID to confirm it?
Yes.
Okay. And the picture that was sent to you, was that, did you confirm that as Messiah Harris grade 8 identifier? If you don't remember.
I'm not sure
Okay.
what grade she was in, but yeah, it was her identification.
May I approach this?
Yes.
Approaching with what's already been admitted as Exhibit 40. Does that look similar to what you were asked to confirm?
Yes,
And that one you went into, did you go into the school system to confirm that that was Zions ID?
through an intermediary, but yes.
Okay. And in the bottom corner of one of that, it says grade 8, correct?
Yes, it does.
And you had said earlier that you did an initial search warrant to text now to receive some messages, correct?
It started out as an exigent circumstance request, but yes.
Okay. And may I approach again?
Yes.
We're approaching with what's already been admitted as Exhibit 16. And if you could take a look at that, I'm handing you the last page of Exhibit 16. Does that look familiar to you, sir?
Yes,
And are those some of the messages that you got from the search warrant that you did to text them?
yes,
And are there on that page that you're holding 3 highlighted ones on the bottom of that message or of that page?
yes,
And the first highlighted one, is there a number associated with whether that it was sent or received from or to?
yes.
And can you read that number for the board, please?
313-585-8719.
And was the first message that's highlighted there, was that a sent or received message?
It was a sent message.
Indicating that it came from the owner of the text now account, correct?
Correct.
And what does that message say?
Don't forget to be there before 3. I will let you know when I'm leaving school. If you're not there, I will wait.
And to be clear, the owner of the account that you did a search warrant on, you believe to be Isaiah Harris, correct?
That's correct.
And then the second message down from that, second to last message on that page, is that a sent or received message?
It's a sent message.
And who is it sent to, the number?
313-585-8719.
And what does that message say?
Send okay if you send the message so I can delete your number.
And then the last message on that page first, is that a sent or received message to that account?
Received.
So the owner of the account would have received that message from someone else?
Yes.
And what's the number that sent the message to that text now account?
313-585-8719.
And what is that message?
Okay.
And what are the dates of those messages?
January 9th, 2024.
And when the owner of that account received that last message of okay, what date and time did she receive that on?
January 9th, 2024 at 14:23:10 UTC.
And the UTC would be 4 hours ahead at that time from the local time?
Correct.
Okay. So that would have been at 10 a.m. or so?
That would have been 9:23
a.m.
Yes.
Okay. I have another.
Russ?
Is it, Sergeant Harris? I'm sorry.
It was Lieutenant
It was
Harris.
Lieutenant, I'm sorry. So did you learn about this case through Detective Gardner? You learned about it from somewhere from the school, or how did it land on your desk?
So the grandmother went to the school called Officer Wolf, who works that area. And then whenever we have a missing student, we always dispatch a detective.
Okay, so it was Officer Wolf who was initially dispatched to the school
Correct.
to do kind of an initial intake or interview,
Yes.
so to speak, okay. And you're familiar that he did that?
Yes, he generated a report and did that. And then Detective Adele Gardner took over from that.
So when Officer Harris,
Wolf.
I'm sorry, Wolf came back with his report, he passed, essentially, the report indicated what he did on the case and then handed it off to Detective Gardner.
No, Detective Gardner responded to the scene before he even came back and did the report.
Okay, so Detective Gardner is also involved in some of the things that Officer Wolf did.
Yes, the canvassing and
Canvassing.
talking to people, yes.
Okay. That's what I was gonna get to next. So, you're familiar that, at least Detective Gardner and Officer Wolf went out to the 3 Mile Drive location, in Cornwall, where the bus stop was, and canvassed that area.
Not just them, but other officers, yes.
Others too, okay. Did any of the officers in, the DPS interview the teacher that was in Ms. I's class that day?
Yes, I believe so.
Yes, do you know who it was?
It would have been Detective Gardner.
And do you know if Detective Gardner has authored a report?
She would have case notes and interview statements for everybody she interviewed.
Okay. Did you follow up on anything that, yourself follow up on anything that Officer Wolf did or that he left open in his report to do?
Not personally, I was just directing the efforts of Detective Gardner as whatever guidance she needed or help.
Okay, and one of the things that she requested of you was to do the search warrant for the text now?
The text now, Instagram.
Okay, and did you receive anything back from Instagram?
Yes, I received back her, Nazai's Instagram account, information.
Okay. Now ultimately, you came into possession of Messiah's laptop, is that correct?
You talking about the one she uses at school?
Correct.
Yes.
And how did you take possession of that?
I sent Detective Gardner over to the school to pick it up.
It was at the school?
Yes.
Okay, do you know where at the school?
With all the rest of the laptops the kids use.
Okay, so they leave the laptops there every day at the end of the day?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know if anybody's, from your, unit or searched anywhere in the classroom, like, lockers or areas where like coats and other things, bags, backpacks, lunch boxes, that kind of thing are stored?
That would have been standard to have to search where her locker was, her classroom, any of that stuff.
It would have been.
We would search the whole school to make sure that, we found kids hiding in the school before that went missing, so we would search the entire school, surrounding area that route to and from school, things of that nature.
Can you say for sure that that was done here, or just that should have been done? Because
That should have been done.
Okay, but you can't say for sure that you didn't do it?
I didn't go to this thing.
Okay. And you haven't read a report that indicated somebody else did it? Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say.
Okay. Now you also, we're showing a picture of Messiah's 8th grade ID card from the school?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know when that ID card was issued to Messiah?
Should have been beginning of school.
Okay. So that would have been end of August?
Yes, or, yeah, we started before Labor Day again last year.
Okay. Other than the warrant and giving the laptop over to DPD, did you do anything else yourself in this case?
Yes.
What else?
Went back out to the school, interviewed some students, got some more information from some of the Zion's friends. Different from what they had given earlier. Spoke with her little sister, spoke with the grandmother, got the release for her dental records, picked up a toothbrush. Went out on a couple more canvases, things of that nature.
Okay. Now you mentioned that you passed this case off, or your partner passed this case off to DPD at about the 30-day mark.
Somewhere around there, it may have been a little after, because right around the 30-day mark is when I would have went and got the toothbrush, so we still had it then. Because you have to make that update in the system, you guys get close to the 30 day.
So the case was opened on January 10th, correct?
Correct.
And was it the 13th of February that you gave the laptop to the Detroit police? Do you recall?
That sounds all right, around Valentine's Day.
Okay. And that would have been about the last thing that you did at that point?
Yes.
Okay. So, and that's right around a 30-day window. fair
Yeah,
to say?
a little bit past at that point.
Okay. Now is that 30-day window, is that kind of a standard protocol, or is there something that kind of where your jurisdiction kind of expires and you pass it on to a different agency?
I would say no, because
have been with the school police since 2011, and this was the first missing we had recovered within a couple of days. So normally we would, continue on with our cases, but once it got to that point, once we suspect, it could be a possible homicide, then the jurisdiction goes back to Detroit. So that's kind of how we.
Would it be fair to say that once you had kind of exhausted your tools,
I guess, yeah, that's one way to look at it.
could you hand it off to a different agency before 30 days? Could you decide within 2 weeks, we aren't coming up with any leads, we should give this to a different agency for more assistance?
We could, yes.
I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Very briefly, Judge. Ms. Quick asked you about recovering a laptop. That was done in this case. Zaya's laptop was recovered, correct?
Yes.
And did you or did someone else or DPS recover a tablet that belonged to Zaya as well?
Yes.
Okay, and where was that recovered from? The school or somewhere else?
From the grandmother.
From the grandmother?
Yes.
And that would be Annette Harris?
Yes.
Okay, you are done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe we have one moment, Judge.
Yes.
Of the Detroit Police Department.
I do.
Procedure?
Yes.
Thank you. You state your name for the record, sir?
Antonio Gravisi.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm a detective in the Detroit Police Department.
How long have you been with the Detroit Police Department in total?
Total of 29 years.
And how long in the homicide unit primarily?
11 years.
Okay. And what is your current role in the homicide unit?
At this time, I am one of two that extract surveillance videos from locations.
Oh. And does that sometimes include like doorbell cameras, Ring or Xfinity or something like that?
Correct, it does.
Okay. And did you do that? I want to take you back to January 20th, 2024. Did you receive a request or a dispatch to go to a location?
Not on that date, but yes, I did receive a request back in February 20th of 24 to make 4803 Bedford to recover some video.
Okay, and you said 4803?
Correct.
And did you write a report about this?
Correct.
Is there an error or a typo in your report regarding the address?
Yes, I have 3803.
And in preparation for your testimony, did you realize that that was a typo?
Correct.
And what was the reason you were dispatched to that location on Bedford?
At that time to recover video from a surveillance unit that's showing a girl walking down the street.
Okay. And are you familiar with the area that address is in, or what the corner and cross streets are?
Yes.
And what are the corner and cross streets right next to that address?
That is Bedford and Cornwall.
Okay, and then is the street 3 Mile Drive nearby this location?
That's 1 block east of Bedford.
And did you have a chance to observe the videos or some of the videos that you recovered earlier today?
Yes.
And do those fairly and accurately depict the videos that you extracted from this system?
Yeah, that was a ring system, yes, sir.
Okay. And at this time, Judge, I would move to admit people's proposed exhibits 49, 50, and 51.
Any objection?
No,
It will be noted.
And permission to publish.
Yes.
And playing exhibit. Playing exhibit 49 from the beginning. And stopping the video at 9 seconds in. I'm not going to ask you to narrate what we're seeing in the video. I just want to lay some groundwork as to what we're looking at. Did you see that bus go by on the right side of the screen?
Correct.
And where is that bus approximately stopping right now on the screen?
That's stopping right approximately at 3 miles.
And Cornwall?
Cornwall.
Okay. And we're looking at Bedford from this view.
Yeah, we're looking eastbound from the house of 4803 towards down Cornwall towards 3 Mile Drive.
Okay. Continuing playing from 9 seconds. And moving to exhibit 50 and playing from the beginning. And moving now to exhibit 51. And stopping at 6 seconds into the video. Detective, is there a timestamp on this video that you can see or that you know of?
There is a timestamp.
Can you see it on the screen right now?
No, sir.
And is it being obscured by the zoom thing in the bottom right corner?
Correct.
Detective, when you went to extract this, is there something you do or process that you follow to calibrate the time system on the system you're extracting the video from?
Correct. We do a time calibration to the world clock.
Okay, and what is the world clock?
So basically, the world clock is the anatomical clock that we go by from the Navy clock. So looking at the anatomical clock or the world clock to the video system, we calibrate how if it's 0, which this one was, 2, or if it was short or fast.
Okay. So you would be able to tell if the video, the time system that is on the video is 10 seconds fast, 2 hours fast, or slow?
Slow, correct.
And what was the result again for this video?
Again, this was 0 to the world clock, so it was on.
Okay. And may I approach the witness, Judge?
Yes.
Detective, can you read, it might be easier on the laptop, what the time is in the bottom right corner on the screen right now?
Once it's still covered. So that time is, I have my glasses, it is January 9th, 2024. And I believe it's 14:54 and some seconds.
And 14:54 would be around 2
2:54 p.m. on the 9th of January.
And all of these videos have that timestamp?
Correct.
And playing the video now from 30 degrees. I have nothing further, Justine.
So in that video, are you familiar with that area that's depicted in the video?
Correct.
Okay, so, you said that that was a view, from the camera on a house viewing Bedford going east, is that correct?
Bedford runs north and south, Cornwall runs east and west, so it's shooting eastbound down Cornwall, basically.
Okay, your view is
The
like,
view.
is looking towards the east,
Correct,
okay. And so in Bedford, you said is north-south street.
correct.
And so the person walking down, Bedford will be going towards the north.
Yes, ma'am, towards East
Harper,
Warren.
or is it Warren or is it Harper?
That's Warren.
Warren, okay,
Well, Warren, then Harper, that's all going in that.
okay. Nothing else, thanks.
Nothing further, Judge.
Okay, you're all done, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay. And tomorrow, how many witnesses do you anticipate?
Okay, so that is the end of that was a lot. Yeah, that was a lot. So that was January 7th. And so we heard quite a few testimonies from Jarvis Butt's fiance, from the US Border Control, from the sergeant and detectives of the police department, the school safety liaison, and so quite a bit of information was presented in this preliminary hearing. But once again, thank y'all for tuning in. This is a lot. I actually got a headache, so I'm working, but at the same time I'm listening. So I do have a headache. So I possibly will put a pause on this and we'll resume. So tomorrow I will do January 8th preliminary hearing, and then on the 9th I will do not on the 9th, Lord, on the 31st, I will do January 9th's preliminary hearing, and then that will conclude that. Yes, Grandma, Queen Grandma, it is very, very sad watching the And you know, I and while we was watching this, I actually went on to TikTok and I seen some it's so many stories out there, a lot of false stories. Some people saying that they saw her with her baby out in the I'm just like, if y'all really did, where's the proof? Like if you've seen somebody, I would take a picture. I will get my camera out, I will record it and I will post it to the world. But yet these people didn't do that. Yeah, I hope you get better, Queen Grandma. Yeah, man, it's a lot of stuff that's going out here. My boyfriend ended up having the flu, but he went to his mom's house to spend time with them, but he really didn't spend time because he actually had the flu. And I think he got the whole household sick. So I'm very fortunate that he didn't come get me sick in my household. Lord, not saying I want my mother-in-law and them sick. But yeah, so the flu is going around. Just, y'all stay hydrated, make sure you are taking your meds and everything. But like I said, tomorrow we'll do January 8th preliminary hearing, and then on the 31st we'll do January 9th preliminary hearing, and that will conclude the preliminary hearings for Naziah Harris. But thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Definitely comment if you wish to do so. I know you guys were in here, we were chit chatting. But I will update you guys on some other stuff. But as far as the Naziah Harris case, we will resume tomorrow. So y'all take care and be blessed. I'm out of here. Bye.